The hero is introduced as Zhang Fan, and until recently he was the author of the horror Manhwa. Because of an incurable disease, he was doomed to a miserable death. That's just he was reborn into the main character of his work, and he was having a good time in this world. He had something to eat and drink. Zhang Fan is sitting surrounded by his supporters at a table covered with food. He was surrounded by beauties. Zhang Fan is sitting in a warm bath. Beautiful girls are around him, taking care of him. One of them asks him, addressing him as a gentleman, whether the water is warm enough. The other falls on the bed and asks her master if he will spend the night with her tonight. But in this world, dangers lie in wait for him from all sides. Wherever he goes, there will be those who wish for your death. The horsemen rush into battle and the commander gives the order to kill everyone. These are enemies who will not miss the opportunity to deliver a fatal blow. Someone puts a knife to Zhang Fan's throat and tells him to die, and even his servants only crave his blood in order to regain their strength. One of his confidants says that then if the master dies, they will all regain their strength. This is all Zhang Fan's confidants saying in chorus, and one of them asks the others about what they are waiting for. He says we're attacking. The other guy supports him by shouting along. The third man with green hair asks the Lord to forgive them. A green fire lights up on his hand. And even Zhang Fan's handiwork, his brainchild, also craves parricide. This brainchild appears behind his back, asking let's play daddy. And in order to survive, Zhang Fan only needs to harden his heart. Zhang Fan rushes into battle with determination. He fills his heart with evil. He takes his confidant by the face and asks him that he dared to lift him on his sword. His men will slaughter the man's entire family. In the end, Zhang Fan became the legendary Demon King. He became His Majesty Lucifer. On the wall there is a sign, Zhang's house, Manhwa Studio Demonic Pill. Someone looks at the hand-drawn images of people and coughs. He examines the images of the Demon King's entourage and says that he is glad to welcome everyone. He apologizes for having gathered all of them here today. He also apologizes for not listening to them from the very beginning. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to break up, and their studio would still be. But now they just have to say goodbye to the readers. He is really glad that he was able to create so many stories and characters together with all of them. He wishes good luck in everything, health, and This is from Zhang Fan, who is very ill. He will miss his readers. He had been writing about death for so many years and now she was knocking on his door. And through him death will come to them. The feeling of death, like it's not so bad. Such a nice feeling. No, Zhang Fan is lying with his eyes closed. His consciousness clears up. He lies on the bed while the maid wipes his head with a handkerchief. He opens his eyes and asks about where he is. The girl removes her hand from his face and drops the basin of water. The girl falls to the floor while Zhang Fan rises on the bed. He asks the girl about who she is and why he is here. She looks at him in shock, and then he explodes and runs screaming out of the room, screaming mamas, he woke up. Zhang Fan only has time to stretch out his hand in her direction when she already disappears into the doorway. He slowly lowers one leg off the bed. Zhang Fan sits down, stretching his shoulders. Zhang Fan talks about whether he is not dead. Had he been reborn? Then he looks at the clothes that are hanging nearby. He dresses, thinking that this body is so weak that he can barely keep these clothes on himself. Unlike his past sick body, this is at least capable of recovery. He gets dressed when some girl enters the room with the words Mr. He looks at the girl in shock, thinking about how this is possible. In front of him is Feng Xinyan. She rushes to him and squeezes him in her arms, screaming that he has finally woken up. She, as his submissive slave, waited for them for half a year. Zhang Fan confusedly thinks that in front of him is the heroine of his work. But where did she come from here? He takes Feng Xinyan's hands away from him. She is shocked and tells him to forgive her. She violated etiquette. She falls to her knees and puts her hand to her heart, saying that she did not show restraint. She apologizes to her master and continues, saying that as soon as the maid informed him that he had woken up, his slave could not believe her ears. Zhang Fan is embarrassed to think that Feng Xinyan calls him master. She approaches him and takes his arm, telling her master to follow her. Everyone will also be happy when they find out that they have woken up. Zhang Fan asks who they are. The girl escorts him to the building, telling her master that this is the courtyard of the guest house. They are all here. In the room where they pass, someone pours a red liquid into a glass. Feng Xinyan speaks to the man, addressing him as Ammon, and saying that the gentleman has indeed woken up. Zhang Fan looks in shock at the man in front, Ammon. He thinks that before him is a real vampire Ammon. Feng Xinyan, seeing Ammon's silent reaction, says that what impudence. How dare he show disrespect to the master. Ammon comes closer to them and putting his hand to his heart says long life, sir. Feng Xinyan takes Zhang Fan away from Ammon and tells the gentleman not to pay attention to him, This dumbass has a bad temper, they should go to the others. Zhang Fan goes and thinks Feng Xinyan, Ammon, all these are the heroes of his work. He comes to the conclusion in shock that this is how it turns out he did not come into this world alone. On the street, he is greeted by the dwarf Zhu San, who is sitting on the shoulder of the woodcutter, Fan Lai. Zhu San waves to Zhang Fan and says that Mr. has finally woken up, long live Mr. Then they come up to them from behind and say how lively it is, it looks like lunch will be served earlier. Zhang Fan turns around and sees Blind Man Bei and Zombie Liang Cheng. Zhang Fan understands that in the end he was accompanied by the heroes of his work. These are the Demon Kings. Day. The sun illuminates the house. It contains Zhang Fan, who thinks that he was the author of the horror Manhwa until recently, and who would have imagined that after death from an incurable disease, he would continue to live. At the same time, to live in the world where he got with the heroes of his work. Zhang Fan sits at the head of the table, where Feng Xinyan, Ammon, Zhu San, Fan Lai, Blind Man Bei, and Liang Cheng also sit and dine. Here Feng Xinyan raises his glass and says that he congratulates the gentleman on his return. From now on, they all have someone to follow. Everyone else is just as happy to raise their glasses and smile. Zhang Fan thinks about being called Mr. again, being told to follow again. He doesn't understand if his entourage is acting out their roles or what. Out loud, Zhang Fan asks everyone else that they went down into the world half a year ago and all this time they were just earning money for a living here. His entourage freezes in shock hearing this question. Blind Man Bei interrupts the silence, saying that since the day they entered this world, not only Zhang Fan was in oblivion, but all of them too. They became ordinary people. Zhang Fan is shocked to think that. Who would have thought that those very demon kings from Manhwa, who could make a real bloody mess in 1 minute, would suddenly become ordinary people? Then it's no wonder that they had to spend so much time in this guest compound. That's only then. Zhang Fan thinks that even though everyone around him calls him master, but he is absolutely not ready to lead the demon kings in their full majesty. Out loud, he asks Feng Xinyan about where the demonic pill is. She turns away from him and tells the gentleman to wait a bit. Zhang Fan thinks that although Feng Xinyan and the blind man came from his pen, they helped me with them. Only a demonic pill from beginning to end is a completely invented character by him. If he's here too, he'll just be overjoyed. Feng Xinyan brings Zhang Fan a box and says that the demonic pill is here. He asks in shock what it means. Feng Xinyan opens the box and says that since he did not have a physical shell, he did not need to eat or drink, so he sealed himself in this stone. There is a blue stone in the box. After a while, Zhang Fan lies on the bed and looks at the stone in which the demon pill is sealed. Zhang Fan says that it was fine before, but now he has woken up. Why is he still sleeping? He asks if he is ashamed. Zhang Fan says that, however, it's not surprising. It's not for him to crawl at the feet of an ordinary person. It's enough that Feng Xinyan and Zhu San pretend to be his servants. Then there is a sound and someone shouts that it is better to let Sonyan bandage his hand. It's broken dishes. There are splinters and blood on the floor. Ammon holds a bloody palm in front of him and says that it is not worth bandaging his hand. He is a vampire. Fan Lai answers him that they don't have their strength, so he thinks it would be better for Ammon to bandage his arm. Ammon sits down in front of the shards and his blood and says that he doesn't care. He will regain his power faster than them. It will take him no more than 3 days. Fan Lai says with a smile that then he will take the wine to the living room first. Zhang Fan asks Ammon if he is being distracted. The latter turns his head to him and says, "Sir." Zhang Fan suggests they talk. They go outside and Zhang Fan sits down on a chair, asking Ammon if he would sit down. Ammon replies that the chair is dirty. Zhang Fan says if he knows what this place is. Ammon replies that he doesn't know. Zhang Fan says that he has been here for half a year, but he never found out. Ammon replies that he is only interested in winemaking. Zhang Fan asks about that, then who can know? Ammon replies that he can be blind. He sits at the gate all day. Zhang Fan says that something doesn't add up. They got into another world and didn't try to collect information about it. All players know that the most important thing in the beginning is to scout the area, especially when it comes to rebirth, isn't it? Ammon doesn't necessarily answer. He was unconscious anyway. Zhang Fan is in shock, thinking about what kind of logic Ammon has. He wants to blame everything on him. Ammon tells the gentleman that he should not be afraid of them. He asks him about it again. Ammon continues, saying that in truth they despise him much but will not leave. They didn't leave him while he was in oblivion, and now that he's awake, they won't leave him anymore. Zhang Fan asks about it again. He thinks to himself that Ammon decided to break through his feelings. It would be fine if Feng Xinyan and Zhu San gave this out, but to hear this from the ancestor of vampires, maybe they mixed up the lines. Ammon says that they abandoned them, but he not only did not abandon them, but also continued their stories. That's why they won't leave him. Ammon turns around, saying that while the master was in oblivion, they only had to wait until this day. The blind man knows more about this world. They should still ask him. Ammon leaves, leaving Zhang Fan to sit alone. He says out loud you despise something, but still they do not leave him. He thinks that it seems they all know that they are the heroes of his work, so they recognize him as their master. Zhang Fan looks at the sky and says thank you. Here Ammon, who has already stepped aside, is surprised by something. He looks at his hand in shock. It healed in an instant. There's not a scratch on his arm anymore. Zusan sits on a pedestal in front of people at their desks and tells them that last time he stopped at how Brother Ho became the strongest warrior by throwing himself on his fighting donkey. He instantly clashed with the enemy with 3,000 blows, and the battlefield stretched for hundreds of li. He doesn't have time to finish when one of the people listening to him laughed, saying the strongest warrior and whether his donkey is fast. Zhang Fan sits at the back of the desks and also looks at Zusan. He sits with his head propped on his hand and thinks that Zusan, who likes to cut people off piece by piece, has become a simple storyteller. If readers found out about it, it's scary to even imagine what would become of him. Then he turns his head to the side, thinking, and yes, he sees a beautiful girl and a fat man hugging him. Zhang Fan thinks that in his works, in all epochs, in all cities and in all worlds, Feng Xinyan opened brothels. But he is afraid that this one is the most neglected of all. Zhang Fan says that this world is really ordinary. Blind Man Bei tells him that in this world the only power of the local government is weak, and so it seems to be a fairly ordinary world. He says that everyone he met during these 6 months were ordinary people. Here a man rides down the street on a horse with strange green growths, and the horse itself is green. Zhang Fan points forward with his finger and says that look at that horse, there are such in the ordinary world. Blind Man Bei says that he is blind. Night falls on their mansion. Feng Xinyan tells the gentleman that everyone is assembled. Zhang Fan is holding a crystal in which a demonic pill has sealed itself. He tells the others that he has already learned the blind man's opinion about this world, what they all think about him. Feng Xinyan replies to him, addressing him as a gentleman, that it doesn't matter what they think about the world. They just want to know what his next move will be. Feng Xinyan points to the doors behind him with his finger and says that when they open this inn, they agreed that when the gentleman wakes up, he will personally choose the name. They had options, the Goodness Inn or the Dragon Gate Inn. Feng Xinyan asks what His Highness thinks about these names. Zhang Fan says to sit and wait for death or take fate into your own hands. They've all been through death here, is there anything else to think about? The second one will be better. Feng Xinyan asks the gentleman to think again. He answers her not worth it. He remembers his past life. He thinks that in the past he adored everything frightening, because it inspired him. What a pity that only through drawing he managed to feel this atmosphere for himself. He looks at his entourage, thinking that in this world he has nothing but them. For me, living in this world every day is a huge acquisition in itself. Therefore, instead of choosing a calm and measured life, it's better for him to rush towards adventures. Zhang Fan puts the crystal back in the box and says that even if he loses, the game will be over. But once he decides his future fate, he will choose something that he will not regret in the future. Blind Man Bei answers him that he understood him. Zusan is told to go to the county council as soon as possible. He readily jumps off Fan Lai's shoulder, replying to eat. Fan Lai is told to find the caravan and infiltrate it, to find out if there is any suitable place for them. He answers with a smile understood. Blind Man Bei says that the daughter of the chief of the city guard suffers from infertility. When she was here, he saw her fate. In the evening he sent her some water, and as for the inn, then Zhang Fan and Feng Xinyan will meet the guest. Blind Man Bei tells Liang Chen to help Xinyan with Ammon, to make sure that everything goes without incident. And finally, Sonyan, a piece of juicy meat, but she must remember that the first bite should go to the master. Feng Xinyan says okay, she will personally receive guests today. Whoever pays the most will get it. Zhang Fan thinks that although it really seems that over these half a year the guys have become more submissive, but still this is not their true character. They were just waiting for him to wake up, waiting for his order, and finally, before he woke up, everything they did was just a fake. Feng Xinyan passes by Ammon and says that he did not have dinner today. She asks him that the blood is not good enough. Ammon replies yes, just disgusting. He clenches his fist. Feng Xinyan says that Fan Lai went to the desert with the caravan. Zusan handed over the materials to the county council. The blind man went to the head of the city guard, but has not yet returned. Ammon replies understood. Zhang Fan is sitting at the table and asks Ammon if he can help him with something. Ammon tells him that in fact, the Lord has already helped them a lot. Zhang Fan thinks that in other words, he helps only by not interfering. Ammon says the bidding is already over, but there is a small problem. They paid too high a price. On the street there are two men who are talking. One of them, fanning himself with a fan, says that who are these people from the inn? Each of them is decorated like some kind of demon. Another man replies to the young gentleman that this is their peculiarity. Their guest must be the son of the head of some influential clan. He will have an escort with him, although he would say that he looks more like a guard and, as they say, over the past couple of days he has made a lot of noise in the city, but no one has dared to rein him in. Zhang Fan says that even if it is, there is no need to worry. I place the highest bid. The more money and the higher the status in society, the greater its real influence. Sinyan should not miss such a big fish. Ammon replies that the stronger his guard, the more valuable the loot. Anyway, Sinyan has already received the money. She does not need to sleep with him for real. Ammon continues by telling Zhang Fan that if he really wants to help somehow. Liang Cheng stands against the wall with his arms crossed over his chest. Zhang Fan walks towards him down the corridor. Liang Cheng asks Zhang Fan about who made him come here, Ammon. Zhang Fan replies that it was his wish. He carries a pot in his hands. Zhang Fan picks up the pot and says that he broke it. He did not bring any problems. Zhang Fan thinks to himself that not only Ammon, but also Liang Cheng considers him a burden. Liang Cheng tells Zhang Fan to do as he sees fit, but don't overdo it. Liang Cheng climbs the stairs and says that in the end he cannot sacrifice the safety of the master. Zhang Fan is shocked to think that Liang Cheng cares about him. Ammon is standing under the windows, from which the words "Beauty, I am here" come. Someone is burning with impatience and he has something for her. Ammon holds a knife in his hands and looks at his hand. He forcefully sticks the knife into his hand. He takes out a knife and blood spurts from his hand. He runs his tongue over his wound and smiles. His eyes are burning with blue fire. Feng Xinyan asks if the gentleman likes her. The man looking at her in shock opens his eyes. She is sitting on the bed in black underwear. The man answers her that he really likes it. He had never seen anything more beautiful. Feng Xinyan says with a smile that she has a lot of stockings. The man opens his mouth, saliva dripping from it. Feng Xinyan leans back on the bed, saying that if the gentleman likes. She gets out of bed. A man hugs his shoulders and says, his slave. The white mist swirls around them. Feng Xinyan puts the man on the bed, saying that his slave can measure everything for him. She starts trying on stockings in front of a man, who responds to each fitting with a wow and embarrassingly opens his eyes, blushing. There is a male security guard standing at the door in the corridor, who sternly crosses his arms on the door and asks someone what they are doing here. It's Liang Cheng and Zhang Fan walking down the corridor. Liang Cheng says that on the orders of the owner, they brought wine, the best of the best. The man replies that he doesn't drink. Liang Cheng tells the guest that he misunderstood. They brought wine on the orders of their host. Then the man turns his head and looks at Zhang Fan. He tells them to pass. Zhang Fan walks past a man with a barrel and sweat flows down his face. Feng Xinyan is lying in stockings on the bed and a man shouts at her to take them off. She answers him about where to go in such a hurry. She wraps a stocking around a man's neck and says that she is. Here Zhang Fan rushes at the male guard, bringing the barrel to strike. He smashes it on the man's head, and Feng Xinyan forcefully squeezes the stocking on the man's neck and begins to strangle him. Here, with the help of magic, Ammon flies into the room through the window. He grabs a sharp object and forcefully plunges it into the man's neck. He falls to the floor without strength, and Ammon stands over him. Feng Xinyan is sitting on the bed, and a man in blood is lying on the floor in front of her. Ammon is standing behind him. Feng Xinyan asks Ammon that he is not dead. Ammon replies that he is not much. Zhang Fan is fighting with a male guard at this time. The man takes out his sword and rushes to attack him, and he looks at him in shock. Liang Cheng takes out his sword and rushes after the man, who is already rushing to attack Zhang Fan. It appears behind the man's back. He puts a weapon in front of him, around which blue energy swirls. Zhang Fan opens his mouth in shock. The sword is aimed directly at Liang Chen's chest. The same one plunges the sword into the man's shoulder with force. He forcefully drives the sword into the man's shoulder and yellow lightning starts to sparkle from his hands. Liang Cheng is standing, stabbing a sword into the man's back, and he pierced him through the stomach. The man asks Liang Chen that he is a daredevil. Here the man pushes Liang Chen away from himself with the help of blue energy. Zhang Fan thinks that there is a blue light in front of them. This is internal or combat energy. He thinks that this time he got a really big fish. That's just. This fish doesn't really want to be eaten. Here the man looks at the rooms where his master was. He throws open the door, shouting, "Mister, are you okay?" Tears come to his eyes. Then a magical flash flashes in the room. This is Ammon in a whirlwind of black magic rushing at him with a smile to attack. The man pulls out his sword, and Zhang Fan shouts to Ammon to watch out. A man using blue magic attacks with Ammon's sword. Ammon is forcefully slammed into the wall by the blow. The man tells him to tell who sent them. He stands clutching the sword with which he pierced Ammon and shouts to him about who the hell they are. Ammon laughs. His eyes are burning with magical fire. Zhang Fan watches them in shock. His eyes widen in surprise. Ammon opens his mouth, gathering energy around him. His fangs lengthen, becoming like a vampire's. He forcefully plunges into the man's neck. He screams in pain, and Ammon sinks his fangs deeper into the man's neck. The man loses consciousness and goes limp, and Ammon sticks his fangs out of it and throws the man's body to the side. The man's body falls to the floor. Ammon wipes his mouth with his hand and speaks with a smile about what a familiar feeling. His eyes are burning with blue magical fire. Ammon spreads his wings to the side. Magic sparkles around him. Ammon spreads his vampire wings to the side. Magic sparkles around him. Feng Xinyin looks at Ammon in shock, as does Liang Cheng, as does Zhang Fan. He thinks that Ammon has regained his powers, but how? They think about what they can do. Feng Xinyin walks down the corridor, clicking his heels, and says that as it is convenient for them vampires, he bit and restored his strength, and quenched his thirst. Feng Xinyin stops, crossing his arms over his chest and asking Ammon about when he regained this ability. Ammon answers her yesterday. Feng Xinyin asks about how he did it. Ammon replies that because of the awakening of the Lord. Feng Xinyan's eyes light up after these words. She thinks about the fact that Ammon has regained his strength because of the awakening of the Master. She thinks that then her too. Zhang Fan looks at her and screams about what is happening to her. Feng Xinyin tells him with a smile that the fish has been caught, so she offers to accompany him to the bedroom, and everything else should be left to her. A little later, Liang Cheng stands near the coffin in which Ammon lies. He asks him about the fact that he sleeps in a coffin. Maybe the secret of his recovery is in him. Ammon replies that traditions must be respected, unless he, like a zombie, does not understand this. Liang Cheng says no, he prefers a bed. Ammon lies with his eyes closed and says that before he did not sleep much in a coffin, and after entering this world, he spent a lot of money to order it. He is afraid that mortals only realize their mortality when they get old. Liang Cheng replies to Ammon that he is now a mortal himself. Here someone says that it means that an accident almost happened. This is Blind Man Bei. He peels the fruit, saying that it's his fault. Ammon replies that it is, but in any case. Ammon continues, saying that for some reason it seems to him that only such a world could inspire them. Blind Man Bei replies that after today's success, this world has opened up a little to them. He tells them to continue while he returns to interrogate their guests. Ammon says that let the gentleman personally interrogate him. This is surprising to his interlocutors. Blind Man Bei says that he is afraid that the master will not cope with this yet. Let him temporarily take care of it. Ammon says that it would be better to slightly speed up this process. Blind Man Bei asks Ammon that this is the reason for his recovery. He leaves, saying that they agreed to stay apart, but Ammon began to act arbitrarily. When Blind Man Bei leaves, Liang Cheng asks Ammon about what they did with the gentleman alone. Ammon replies that it sounds weird. Liang Cheng asks about them doing something weird. Ammon replies that they talked. Liang Cheng says they all communicate. Ammon replies that the gentleman is insignificant. Liang Cheng is right. Ammon, crossing his arms on his chest, says that they will not leave him. Liang Cheng also speaks correctly. Ammon says that perhaps the only difference between them and him is that he told him that they would not leave him. Perhaps their recovery has something to do with his trust in them, but the devil knows. Ammon continues his reasoning, saying that since they came to this world, they have recognized him as their master in their hearts. But from the moment he woke up, it was as if some kind of contract inside them had gained strength, and all they need now is to get his recognition. After that, Liang Cheng says that he will go to the master. Ammon replies that the gentleman is taking a bath now. Liang Cheng wants to rub his back. He replies that he will wait until the gentleman finishes. Ammon asks about what he is so impatient for. Lin Cheng says that of course it is easy for Ammon to talk. He has already recovered. Ammon asks him to help him close the coffin first. He is sleeping. Liang Cheng shouts in response to Nafik. Zhang Fan takes a bath and thinks that who would have thought that they would kill a person for the first time. And he will see something like this for the first time. And he doesn't have a drop of guilt in his soul. Then someone tells him that the master needs them to personally interrogate the prisoner. Zhang Fan replies that they should step on their own, and then report to him about the results. Blind Man Bei stands behind the screen and says that as soon as they receive any information, they will immediately notify you. Susan stands next to Blind Man Bei and asks the gentleman not to worry. This guy doesn't look like a tough nut to crack. If he's going to be stupid with him, then he has an interesting method of interrogation. This world no longer cares whether someone is moral or not, righteous or not. But he believes that the main thing is that they should be devoted to him with all their aspirations, all their awakenings, and all their actions. Zhang Fan throws a towel over his eyes and thinks that maybe it's just him. 3 hours later, Zhang Fan is standing by the tub dressed. He straightens his sleeve, saying that he did not notice how he fell asleep. The most obvious change since he arrived in this world is that he has become a better sleeper. Then Liang Cheng whispers in his ear, "Sir." Zhang Fan opens his eyes in shock and jumps aside and shouts, "Your mother." He shouts Liang Cheng, looking at the zombie standing next to him. He asks if the interrogation is over. Zhang Fan thinks to himself that he almost got an ass stroke. Anyway, he's a real zombie. Liang Cheng says yes. Zhang Fan asks him how his wound is. Liang Cheng replies that it is a scratch, sir. Zhang Fan asks him if he wants to wash. He needs a bathroom. Liang Cheng replies no, sir. Zhang Fan asks about what he needs then. Liang Cheng stands silently. Zhang Fan exhales. He puts his hand on Liang Cheng's shoulder and says that if there is something, then he can safely tell him, even though he knows himself that he is not capable of anything. Zhang Fan continues, saying that he can still listen. Liang Cheng stretches out his hand and puts it on Zhang Fan's shoulder. Liang Cheng tells the gentleman not to go with them next time. Zhang Fan thinks to himself about what so struck Liang Cheng at night on sincerity. He says out loud that he knows, he trusts them. Zhang Fan tells Liang Chen with a smile that he will probably go and find out the results of the interrogation, and Liang Chen should take care of himself. Zhang Fan leaves, leaving Liang Chen alone in the room. He just stands there with his arm outstretched. Then his legs give way and Liang Cheng falls to the floor, pressing his hands to his head and talking about how ashamed he is. Then his eyes light up with magical fire. Magic begins to swirl around him and it heals his wound. Zhang Fan is sitting outside having lunch with Blind Man Bei. He tells him that this world is different from their world. This world is much more interesting. Zhang Fan takes the food and speaks more to the point. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman not to pay attention to his chatter. He will speak slowly, from point to point, but to the point. He draws hieroglyphs on the table. Blind Man Bei says that the place where they are now is called the city of Hutuo and it includes a large territory. This city belongs to the Beifeng County of the Yan Kingdom, which is revered as a province. In addition to Yuefang County, there are 6 other counties in the Yan Kingdom, and the capital is located in Tancheng County. Beifeng County was the northern border of the Yan Kingdom, where the kingdom's warriors fought with robbers 100 years ago. Over the past 100 years, there has not been a war between the two sides numbering more than 10,000 people. On the one hand, this is because the robbers are divided and cannot unite, and on the other hand, because of Southern Yan. Blind Man Bei continues, saying that in addition, the 3 kingdoms of Kayan, CHK and Jin grinned like tigers looking for their prey, and the Yan had to shift their attention to the Central Plains. With the exception of small vassal countries, this world is currently under the control of Yan, Jin, Chu and Kayan. Zhang Fan asks about the fact that there are only 4 kingdoms here. Blind Man Bei says that there is something else interesting. He continues by saying that there are monks, magic, Kai and martial artists in this world. All of them are evaluated on a 9-point scale, where 9 is the lowest indicator and 1 is the highest. And the guard that the gentleman killed yesterday does not even fall into this scale. Zhang Fan eats, thinking that although such things are often written about, but after personal experience, he was still shocked. Now he feels really excited. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that now they are faced with the task of finding a way back. Zhang Fan replies that it can be thrown back for now. Zhang Fan asks Blind Man Bei to tell him in more detail what he plans to do. Blind Man Bei smiles and dips a spoon into the food. First of all, he plans to build up their forces in Hutuo City as a core, and then he lays out his plan to him. Blind Man Bei ends his speech by saying that this is his plan. He asks the gentleman to correct him if something is wrong. Zhang Fan replies that he has nothing to add. Bei has done an excellent job of planning. Blind Man Bei says that the Lord is really wise. Zhang Fan thinks that Blind Man Bei flatters him too much. Zhang Fan coughs into his fist and tells Bei to tell him that if he can help in any way, then let him tell him about it right away. Even though Blind Man Bei says that a subordinate just needs the trust of the master. Zhang Fan doesn't know what to answer at the beginning. After a couple of seconds, he tells Bei that he trusts him. Blind Man Bei replies that this is not the case. Zhang Fan says he really trusts a lot. That's not how Bei says it. Zhang Fan replies that Bei is smart, so he trusts him. Bei says no. Zhang Fan says that he is lying. He is really trusted. Bei says not at the moment. Zhang Fan says he trusts me very much. Bei says subordinate. Here a leaf lying in a plate jumps with the help of magic from one to another. Bei catches him with chopsticks and eats him, saying that he thanks the gentleman for his trust. Zhang Fan in that shocked says "Aw," and he thinks to himself about whether he should keep his distance from blind Bei. The same one sits surrounded by magic and wipes his hand with a smile, thinking that this is where they should finish their meal. After lunch, Zhang Fan takes a walk. That he hears strange sounds from the house. He goes in there. Xiao-san is sitting there, banging a hammer on the layout of the area. Zhang Fan asks him that this is a topographic map. Xiao-san turns to him, saying "Mister." He says with a smile that the gentleman has a sharp eye. Blind man Bei told him to make it, so now he's sketching. For the next stage, it is important for them to firmly establish themselves in the city of Hudu and build a strategic topographic map for convenience. Zhang Fan picks up the hammer and hands it to Xiao-san. He takes the hammer and begins to knock on the card in the same way. Zhang Fan puts his hand on Xiao-san's shoulder, telling him to keep working while he goes to inspect other places. When he leaves, Xiao-san starts coughing. He coughs and immediately drops the hammer. He falls to the floor, but manages to put out one finger and happily holds onto it. Xiao-san, smiling, reveals sharp teeth. Zhang Fan thinks that since yesterday, Xinyan, Liang Cheng and Blind Man Bei have been behaving strangely. But Zhu-san has remained the same as usual. However, he still feels that he can get along with them. Zhang Fan approaches the door when laughter is heard behind him. Zhang Fan turns his head. He wonders if this is Zhu-san's laugh. Then Zhang Fan falls into the room and is enveloped in a white fog. Feng Xinyan asks the gentleman if he is okay. Zhang Fan asks Feng Xinyan what she is doing here. She replies with a smile that she brought his clothes. She says that over the past 6 months she has sewn him several sets of clothes. Feng Xinyan tries on Zhang Fan's new clothes, saying that he has not fully recovered yet and nevertheless it suits him very well. Zhang Fan replies that he grew up without parents, so no one has sewed new clothes for him for a long time. Zhang Fan takes Feng Xinyan's hands in his. She says with a smile that if it is the will of the master, then she can play the role of his mother. Zhang Fan says with a smile Xinyan. Feng Xinyan says that whatever the master wants, she will be ready to cooperate. She is well versed in role-playing games. Zhang Fan thinks that there is no doubt, compared to these demons, he is too pure. Here the blind man Bei enters the rooms, saying "Mister." Feng Xinyan throws a teapot at him and shouts to blind Bei that he is a bastard and he was not taught to knock. Feng Xinyan thinks that they had such a good atmosphere, and he just ruined everything. Blind man Bei coughs and says that something happened at the entrance to the inn. On the throne sits a man who says that soon their army will go to war. Therefore, the emperor ordered to hire workers who will be able to transport army supplies for the 1,000th army. From now on, they are the Zheng family. Zheng Fan, Zheng Lai, Zheng Chen and Zheng Ming, they will all go there. A man in armor with a sword says that they should hurry up. He won't accept any excuses. They should not even think about delaying the affairs of the army. They should know that the sword took countless lives. Feng Xinyan is standing in front of him, and Zheng Fan and Liang Cheng are standing behind her. She says that Officer Zhu Ollie escaped with the merchants. And Ammon is sick. What if he infects everyone in the barracks with tuberculosis? Her eyes are burning with purple fire. The man thinks about her words. The man tells them to forget about these two, the rest will be hired for this job. He leaves, saying that by noon tomorrow they should be at the barracks outside the city. It's an order, they've heard it. Feng Xinyan tells him, "Of course, sir. Have a good trip." Zhang Fan thinks that this time they have really big problems. Blind Man Bei, entering the room, says that now they have 2 ways. The first is to pack your things and leave the hut today. Zhang Fan says they are continuing. Everyone is looking at him. Zhang Fan tells them that they have been dealing with the inn and their current personalities for almost a whole year. In addition to this, the city of Kudo is the first point of their plan. It would be ugly if they just gave up. Besides, it is extremely unrealistic to rebel over such a trifle. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that he is so far-sighted. Bei tells Zhu-san to go with them. He can help them. He answers yes with a smile. Feng Xinyan asks about why she is not going. She could serve them. Bei asks her that she is going to play the role of a military prostitute. This angers Feng Xinyan. Bei says that they are subordinates of the master. Their duty is to remove obstacles in his way. Xiao-san tells the gentleman to leave it to him. Zheng Fan sits down in a chair and thinks that based on the character of the emperor, he does not think that he would like them to perceive him as Liu Chang. He is ahead of them in all respects. The next day in a military camp, Zheng Fan enters the tent, followed by Liang Cheng. Zheng Fan says that they were told to follow along with the army. This time it's so bad. He thinks to himself that who would have thought that he would be reborn in another world and he would have to go to war. Liang Cheng tells the gentleman that they have problems. Zheng Fan asks him what happened. Liang Cheng says that according to the order, they are only responsible for transporting food and supplies. The army was supposed to be ahead, but he couldn't find a single sign that an army had passed through here. Liang Cheng continues, saying that the targets of the attack, the size of the troops, the blitzkrieg, the protracted war, none of this is known to them, and they are thrown on the battlefield immediately after their arrival, and there is definitely something wrong here. Zhang Fan ponders these words, but then Xiao-san approaches in front of him. He tells the gentleman that he has found something. Zhang Fan asks him what. Xiao-san says that he has just been to the ration cart and found this. Xiao-san stretches out his palm with pebbles and says that the cart was filled with stones. A couple of days later in a military camp, in the tent, someone tells the gentleman that most likely something will happen today. Zhang Fan asks him what he saw. Liang Cheng asks the gentleman what he thinks about the current location of the barracks. Zhang Fan replies that firstly there is a guaranteed source of water here, which the enemy will not be able to block in any way. Xiao-san is warming food on the fire at this time. Zhang Fan continues by saying that secondly, given the fact that their camp is in the canyon, they can better provide their protection by lowering the defensive zone. Liang Cheng tells him that the master is very wise. Zhang Fan thinks to himself about how brazen flattery is. It feels like they didn't ask for money for this job, although considering their daily routine, it should not be so simple. Liang Cheng says that, however, the gentleman did not take into account one point. All this would be applicable if they had the main fighting power, and they have less than 200 cavalrymen, most of whom are ordinary people who were dragged here by force. If several hundred cavalrymen attack them from one side, and other detachments launch a surprise attack from the other, most likely, these peasants will just get scared and the whole camp will be destroyed from the inside. In addition to this, the cavalry accompanying the army had been watching them for these 2 days. Xiao-san tells the gentleman to taste the soup first. He hands him a plate. Zhang Fan says it looks like they're going to be used as bait. Zhang Fan brings a plate of soup to his mouth, thinking that now there is no point in telling higher-ranking army officers or disclosing information to the peasants who went with them. Now they have to protect themselves, and the conditions will allow. He won't mind taking advantage of the current situation. At night, a guard walks through the camp, yawning. Then someone lands behind him. He covers the man's mouth with one hand and cuts his throat with the other. There are several attackers. They run into the tents when the man's body falls to the ground. They run around the camp with daggers in their hands, entering tents. Then Liang Chen's hand appears out of thin air and grabs the man by the throat. The other men hear the sound of battle and freeze. Purple energy sweeps past their throats. This is Xiao-san, who attacks men with a dagger in his hands. Liang Chen carries away the body of the defeated enemy. Then Zhang Fan comes out of the tent. He tells his subordinates to cut off their heads. Here a blue arrow pierces the night sky. She flies up, and Liang Cheng and Zhang Fan are watching her. Cavalry is approaching them, which shouts to kill them, not to take prisoners. Blind Man Bei says they are called barbarians. The gentleman is asked if he knows the attackers. He replies that they have been enemies of the Yan Kingdom for over 100 years. They're the kind of people who never stop. Zhang Fan stands with Liang Cheng and Xiao-san behind the tent while the barbarians destroy the camp. They shout to kill them, and the peasants shout help and run. Zhang Fan thinks that naturally they are bait, and since the fish is hooked, the net should appear soon. Xiao-san tells the master that it's too dangerous here, why don't they just run away, given all this chaos? As far as he remembers, there is a reward, gold and military merit for the heads of barbarians. Xiao-san is talking about what is true. The master has a truly sinister heart. Then the barbarian notices them. He rushes into battle with a shout at them. Liang Chen covers Zhang Fan with himself, protecting him. He holds up a weapon in front of him. Xiao-san rushes into battle with a smile, cutting off the barbarian's head. He holds his neck in shock and falls on his horse without strength. The horse rears up and lets out a neigh. Liang Cheng's eyes light up with red fire. He raises his hands and red magic swirls around them. He uses magic to attack the horse, and the horse also falls dead. And Liang Cheng grabs the barbarian by the throat. He throws it on the ground and calls the master. He draws his sword and rushes into battle. He cuts off the barbarian's head. Blood gets on Zhang Fan's face and hands, and when he tastes it, he says that it's amazing. It's even a little sweet. Zhang Fan drops his sword. He looks at his hands in shock. Zhang Fan asks about the fact that he killed someone, and then he thinks that the feelings he feels now don't seem so bad to him. Xiao-san brings him a water skin and tells the gentleman to drink it. Usually the first murder is the hardest to endure, but when he gets used to it, he will be able to appreciate how much fun it is. Zhang Fan pours water from a wineskin on his head and thinks that the wolf will not allow the sheep to be the leader of the pack. He thinks with a smile that if he does not change their attitude, then it is worth making them think that he also eats meat. He raises his sword and says great, he's fine now. Zhang Fan thinks about what needs to be done so that no one doubts that he is also a real wolf. Another cavalry arrives here. The barbarians look at her from the camp. These are armored warriors on horseback. Someone is shouting that the Yan dogs are coming. You need to reject your fear and kill them. Surround, take no prisoners. Liang Cheng and Zhang Fan are watching them. Xiao San says that he took advantage of the lives of ordinary people to lure a turtle into a jar. He asks about who this general thinks he is, how ruthless it is. Liang Cheng says that it will not be easy to deal with the cavalry, they can only hear a spear is flying rapidly at them. They knock Zhang Fan to the ground, shouting to the gentleman to be careful. Xiao San looks at the enemy with anger. This is a huge barbarian. Liang Cheng pulls out his sword and rushes into battle at the enemy. He jumps, pushing off the ground, and rushes into battle. The barbarian moves away from the attack. Zhang Fan shouts to Xiao San to help Liang Chen. He will be able to find shelter himself. He thinks that they are targeting the goods again. Xiao San laughs. Liang Cheng holds his broken blade in his hands. The barbarian tells him with a smile that his sword is broken, and he immediately rushes into battle against his opponent. Liang Cheng dodges the attack. He says I don't care, he doesn't know how to use a sword anyway. The barbarian punches Liang Chen and slams him into a rock. He opens his eyes in shock, thinking about how this dog from Yan managed to withstand the onslaught of his blow. Liang Chen's arm, separated from his body, cuts into the barbarian's back with magic. He screams in pain, spitting blood. Liang Cheng says that he prefers to use claws. Then an arrow flies at him. She stabs him in the arm. Liang Cheng turns his head to the side. The barbarian, taking advantage of his confusion, kicks him into the cart. Another barbarian stands with a bow and shouts to Ali Gu to be careful. There's clearly something wrong with his opponent. His arrows are easily able to pierce through an ordinary person, but there is not even armor on his hands. Then why did only the arrowhead pierce his arm? Xiao San shouts that he would advise him to look around. It appears behind his back and plunges two of his daggers into the man. He screams in pain when Xiao San hits him. Another barbarian seeing this shouts at Saidu. He raises his sword over Liang Chen and shouts that he will kill him. But then Zhang Fan approaches them, who raises his sword to attack. The man turns his head in shock. He starts spitting blood, screaming that he was poisoned. He remembers that it happened at the very moment when he was attacked by Liang Cheng. Zhang Fan kills him with one blow of his sword. He plunges his bloody weapon into the ground. Zhang Fan is sitting on the ground, leaning on his sword. Then Liang Chen holds out his hand to him to get up. Zhang Fan takes his hand. He gets up from the ground, leaning on Liang Chen. Liang Chen looks at Zhang Fan, remembering Blind Man Bei's words that he knows that he does not think highly of their master. But do not forget that it was he who created them. If the real world could be compared to a cage, then their master was locked inside that cage. Therefore, they must provide their master with all the conditions so that he can develop in peace. In this case, being their creator, he will be the one who will lead them forward. Blind Man Bei believes that their master is truly worthy of them following him. Liang Chen pulls an arrow out of his hand and tells Zhang Fan that the army has taken control of the situation. He says clearly they should count their trophies. Then Xiao San approaches them, who tells the gentleman that it looks like he caught a big fish. He drags the barbarian head of the division of the expansion of the sands. Xiao San says that if they catch this old man alive, then they will have more confidence, right? Zhang Fan says that he is sure that he perfectly saw everything that happened here, so he should be killed. The barbarian starts screaming devil when the knife is at his throat. Xiao San laughs, saying the right thing. He's killing a man. The army is standing in the middle of the battlefield in the camp, and then the leader on horseback pulls out a sword and asks who. He sees Zhang Fan, Liang Cheng, and Xiao San. Zhang Fan is holding the head of the barbarian they just killed. The man is surprised to think that the central army is looking for this old man. The man raises his hand, thinking that this trio is very lucky, their merits are undeniable. But unfortunately their merits now belong to them. The warriors rush into battle against Zhang Fan, Liang Cheng, and Xiao San. Xiao San tells the master that the warriors want to appropriate their loot for themselves. A man on horseback raises his sword, shouting brothers, as then he is pierced through with a blow. He falls off his horse. This is the brand of Zhenbei Lai Kaiyan County, and with her is the accompanying 7th elder. Zhenbei tells Lai Kaiyan to clean up here and come to her tent. Xiao San asks Liang Chen about how he thinks their master is somehow connected with this lady. For a woman to dress like a man, according to the plot, this role usually belongs to the protagonist's harem. Zio-san is sitting in the bathroom and talking about the fact that this woman has a high status and this is only to their advantage. In addition, they are compensated for all losses. Liang Cheng says that this woman is not worthy of their master. Zio-san in response tells him that now he is not even trying to hide his sycophancy. Liang Cheng says that with them, a gentleman can marry the best woman in the whole world. Just don't let Zio-san say that he didn't notice. Then Zio-san opens his eyes in shock. He asks Liang Chen what he means by the power that has returned to them and whether it will continue to return. He thinks the answer lies in the master. Liang Cheng says that before Zhang Fan woke up, they were ordinary people, but now they have regained their strength. But beyond that, their master also gained strength comparable to 10 eternally practicing people. Zio-san shouts exactly. He warned the master that the general is a woman, but he did not have time to give him proper advice. Liang Cheng asks him what kind of advice. Zio-san says with a smile that he told Zhang Fan that if a woman does not allow him to enter inside, then he should do it immediately. After all, most likely she is taking a bath. Thus, by pure chance, the gentleman will receive a wave of material benefits, and then Liang Cheng finishes the words for him that then the girl will order her people to drag him outside and chop him into pieces, after which he will die. Zio-san says that he is so vulgar. Zhang Fan goes to the general's tent. He goes inside and kneeling down says, "Hello, General." Zhenbei Lai Qian says that she wants to reward him for the contribution they made in that fight. He is given 2 awards to choose from. First, Zhang Fan can join her personal battalion and become a member of her Lai family. The second reward, he can become a military officer in the area of the city of Kyudo. Here Zhenbei Lai Qian looks up at Zhang Fan and tells him to forget. He returns with her to the Li family. She won't let his future, but she does not have time to finish, as Zhang Fan says that he chooses the second option. Zhenbei Lai Qian angrily asks that he dares to look down on her family. Zhang Fan replies that the city of Kyudo is his home. He couldn't bear to be separated from this place. He thinks to himself that he is some kind of idiot in the opinion of the girl. Why would he join her family and become her servant? He no longer talks about the fact that he wouldn't even know how he died. Interestingly, there are vegetarians among the 7 demon kings. He remembers Ammon. Ammon stands surrounded by the bodies of the dead men. He says that he has dealt with a gang of hyenas. The next in line is the Union of the Trinity. Ammon asks his interlocutor that the gentleman has not returned yet, and yet he dares to take the initiative. Blind Man Bei answers him that sooner or later the gentleman will return, and they will do trivial things in the meantime. After all, they have self-awareness and initiative. Ammon wipes his bloody dagger. He throws the weapon to the others and talks about what about the gang on the wagons, which is located outside the city. He doesn't remember the gang being on their list. Blind Man Bei says that he left this business to the sons and thinks that everything will be over soon. At the inn, someone says, "In my opinion, it's time to start." The leader of the gang on the carts is hanging in the air, tied up with green magic threads. He screams, "Bitch, what she did to them." Feng Xinyan is sitting on a chair and looking at him. She asks him with a smile that he liked her tofu so much. She pours the contents of the kettle into her mouth. She wipes her mouth. Feng Xinyan's eyes are burning with purple fire. She wonders if the Lord has finished his battle. In the evening, Zhang Fan, Liang Cheng and Zio-san made a halt. The gentleman is told that most likely they will reach the farm in a day. The master does not have to worry about the inn. He is sure that everything is in order there. The 3 of them are sitting by the fire. Zio-san says that, however, he does not know if Ollie will be able to eat in the end. He has a big appetite, so it's quite difficult to find a suitable amount of food outside. Zhang Fan thinks that it must not be easy for them to suck up to him on behalf of Fant Lai every day. Aloud, he suggests Zio-san and Liang Cheng to eat and take a break. There are footsteps. Zio-san opens his eyes, and Liang Cheng says that someone is approaching. They stand up, blocking Zhang Fan. A girl with a veil on her face says that it's quite windy here, they need to find shelter, they should borrow this place. The girl is surrounded by warriors. Zhang Fan, Zio-san and Liang Cheng are sitting by the fire, and a girl with her warriors is sitting not far from them. Then the girl gets up and takes out a water skin and shows it to them. Zhang Fan says that there is a rather cold wind here, which makes his throat hurt and he will not be able to drink. He thinks to himself that these are the next barbarians. Who knows, maybe they put poison in this drink. It is usually assumed that she took a sip first in order to show her sincere intentions. The girl sits back by the fire and after drinking from a wineskin with water, says that she is the head of the barbarians, the master of the royal hall of the barbarians AI. She points to the children and says that these 2 are the grandchildren of the head of the Shadow Tribe. She came here from the royal hall to save them. Zhang Fan is thinking about the Shadow Tribe. At that time, the Li family lured them out. Now they were facing a real enemy. The girl points her hand to the side and tells them that the seal of the Li family is depicted on their horses. She asks them if they are members of this family. She continues angrily, saying that the Marquis of Zhenbei County really lives up to his name. They must have done a great job to cross paths with them here. Zhang Fan says that it seems to him that there was some kind of misunderstanding. The girl asks for a misunderstanding. The wineskin falls to the floor, splashing water. Her guards are choking on the poison, they are foaming at the mouth. The girl says a barbaric curse, the resurrection of corpses. Green magic swirls around her. She resurrects the bodies of her soldiers. They turn into monsters with sharp teeth and burning eyes. Zhang Fan, Liang Cheng and Xiao Xin are preparing for battle. They knew there was something wrong with this girl. Zhang Fan asks Liang Cheng if he can say hello to his relatives. Liang Cheng is a former ancient Jiangshi, that is, a Chinese bouncing vampire, a type of animated corpse in Chinese folklore. Monsters rush at them in battle. Liang Cheng brings his hand to his mouth. Immediately he lets out a monstrous roar, opening his mouth. Waves of red magic reach the soldiers. The girl opens her mouth in shock. She screams that Liang Cheng was able to rid the corpses of her control. How is this possible? She puts two of her fingers to her forehead and shouts, "Damn barbaric, eye open." She decides that she wants to understand the origin of this servant of the Lai family. Immediately, she is shocked to think that she was mistaken. Liang Cheng did not seize control of their corpses, they themselves submitted to his will. Liang Cheng lets out a monstrous roar. Zombie soldiers turn to the girl. They rush to attack her. She tries to get out of the way while two zombies are roaring at her. Then she attacks one of them, hitting him on the head. She grabs the children, causing them to wake up. Then Xiao San appears behind her, laughing. The girl screams "damn," and the children open their mouths in fright. Xiao San points daggers at them. The girl's eyes light up green. She screams as the green magic envelops her. Xiao San flies away. The girl's cloak covered with magic protects her. Xiao San realizes that something is wrong with her cloak. He shouts to the girl that if she has at least a drop of courage, she does not dare to run away. She takes the children and runs away. She runs straight at Zhang Fan, and someone from his entourage shouts, "Sir." Zhang Fan thinks that he wanted to pretend that he was going to block her escape route, but he did not expect that she would immediately rush in his direction. This is too much. He raises his sword to strike. Zhang Fan swings his sword, and the girl, seeing this, throws the child in front of her. Zhang Fan understands this. The child screams, and Zhang Fan fights her off. The girl immediately grabs his dagger and shouts at him that he dares to stop her. Then he will be the first to go to hell. She leans Zhang Fan's sword against his throat. The girl leans the sword against Zhang Fan's throat. She angrily shouts at him to go to hell. Zhang Fan moves his sword to her throat and thinks that the girl has a surprisingly strong grip. Here the corpses of the girl's soldiers fly to them, the control of which was intercepted by Liang Cheng. The girl takes off and the soldiers hit the ground where she previously stood. Zhang Fan raises his head up and sees that the girl is rushing at him. He is preparing to repel the attack. But then Xiao San approaches the girl from behind. He plunges his dagger into the girl's back. Blood spurts from the wound. The girl screams in pain. She grabs one of the children and tries to run away. Xiao San shouts to her that she really thinks she will be able to escape. Then someone tells him not to follow the girl. Xiao San turns around in shock at the voice. Liang Cheng is sitting on the ground and talking about how in his current state it is quite difficult to control two zombies. He has reached his limit. He has no strength left for further battle. Liang Cheng asks Xiao San that if he chases the girl, then who will guard their master? Xiao San approaches Zhang Fan and says that their master's insight is at the divine level. He was able to anticipate the situation on the battlefield and was able to get ahead of their opponent and get in her way. He admires Zhang Fan very much. He replies in frustration that he failed to stop her. And then Zhang Fan asks Xiao San with a smile that his dagger is poisoned, isn't it? He also smiles in response and says that the gentleman is so cruel, he likes it. Far away in the desert from them, a girl with a dagger in her back falls to the ground. Her clothes are soaked with blood at the point of impact. She says, "Damn, the dagger is clearly poisoned, but no matter what, the task of the royal family must be completed." Then she looks ahead and with surprise on her face asks Master Aben what he is doing here. In front of her are three people in cloaks, and behind them is Fan Lai. The man standing in the center asks the girl about what happened to the young gentleman and where he is. The girl shouts to everyone about where their leader is. He should be told to assemble the soldiers immediately. Marquis Zhenbei's henchmen are in that direction. There are quite a few of them. The soldiers should go there and get rid of them. The soldiers rush in the direction indicated by the girl, saying that they understood everything. And Fan Lai remains standing next to her. He stares intently at the dagger in her back. The girl, seeing his gaze, asks what he is staring at. Fan Lai, taking out his weapon, replies that he was staring at her. A little later, Zheng Fan asks Fan Lai that he recognized Zhu San's dagger. He answers the gentleman exactly like that. Zhu San sharpened it in the yard for 6 months. Zheng Fan asks Fan Lai if he stabbed that woman. He answers yes. Zheng Fan looks at how Fan Lai drinks the offered water from the wineskin and thinks that he did not expect that there would be barbarian spies among the caravan with which Fan Lai follows. And by chance, he happened to meet this woman on the way. In the end, everything turned out pretty well. This time, fate was clearly on his side. Zheng Fan thinks that he could not kill 2 children. If in a few decades the generation of rulers of the Tianjiao desert wants to take revenge on him, he will simply kneel in front of them. Fan Lai holds out something in his hands to Liang Chen and Soy San. He picks up the blades of grass and asks what it is, shallots. Fan Lai replies that after eating this, they will both feel an unprecedented surge of energy. He eats them for several days. Zhu San answers him with words that simple people, a simple way of life. At this time, the ambassador of Beifeng County, Zhu Wenju, is sitting at the table with his hands pressed to his head. He asks someone about whether the Marquis and the lady will be able to survive all this. A servant with a tray in his hands answers him that the Marquis is a very lucky man. But Zheng Fan, who recently left, was recommended by the lady herself. He asks Zhu Wenju that he is really going to ignore this fact. Zhu Wenju takes the cup from the tray, removes the lid from it and sternly shouts that Zheng Fan is an ordinary commoner. Even 300 horses are too much for him. Even if they gave him food and a salary, would Zheng Fan dare to follow the flag of rebellion when the Marquis was having a hard time? Zhu Wenju says that if Zheng Fan has the ability to mobilize his troops, then he recognizes him. Zheng Fan is very surprised by something. He is standing in front of the entrance to the house. Next to him are Fan Lai, Liang Cheng and Zhu San. The latter stands in front of the master, putting his hand in front of him in defense. Zheng Fan asks about what's going on. He asks into the void about where everyone has gone. A servant runs out to Zheng Fan shouting, "Master, you are back." Zheng Fan asks the servant about what happened here. The servant tells Zheng Fan to relax. Just recently, Xin Yang and Mr. Bei bought a new house. They asked the servant to stay in case the master returned. They said that after earning a certain amount of money, they want to move to a more spacious place on the corner of that street. In the house where everyone has moved, someone says that the monthly salary of an official in the city of Kyoto will be doubled in accordance with his position. They are new here and just starting out, so for now they have to show everyone their sincerity. Ammon, Blind Man Bei and Feng Xinyan are sitting in a richly furnished room and talking. Blind Man Bei says that a gang of hyenas was engaged in human trafficking. They stopped them only for the sake of their master. Ammon asks him that didn't the association of the 3 gods offer them a tidy sum? Why did he reject their offer? Blind Man Bei replies that, as he said earlier, their master is an educated creator. If Zheng Fan doesn't want to deal with the problems of religion, they won't either. Feng Xinyan says that as far as she remembers, Blind Man Bei's manga was connected with a similar topic, but in the end it was closed. She goes on to say that if their future business thrives, they won't have money problems. Feng Xinyan is sitting with a glass of wine in his hand and says that they have been working together for a long time. They don't think it would be easier to make money by creating soap. Blind Man Bei turns his head when Feng Xinyan drinks from a glass. Then someone shouts, "Mother, the gentleman is back." They are all back. A little later, Zheng Fan is sitting in a hot tub while 3 girls wash him. One of them asks the gentleman about his temperature. Fan Lai, Ammon, Zhu San, Liang Cheng, Blind Man Bei and Feng Xinyan are sitting at a table on which there are half-empty plates with the remains of dinner. Feng Xinyan tells the Blind Man Bei that, as he asked, she organized the best bath for their master. Ammon asks if it doesn't seem to him that this is too much. He thinks that the Lord will not decide to interfere. Blind Man Bei replies that they should all wait for his decision. Xiao San with his eyes closed says what a low attempt to seduce their master. Liang Chen speaks difficult. And Fan Lai eats and smacking his lips says rice and delicious. Blind Man Bei says that the master should always be able to reap the benefits of their development. Now that their conditions have become even better, they must again give him a chance to make a choice. Ammon interrupts him with the words that it's enough to pull. He is sure that Bei will cry if Zheng Fan doesn't like it. Here Zheng Fan asks everyone if they have eaten and drunk. He continues with a smile, saying that then it's worth getting down to business. Xiao San happily tells that at that moment it was already too late. The master has already cut off her escape route. Feng Xinyan says that this is what one would expect from their master. Xiao-san says that if they are interested, then let them listen carefully to what happened next. Zhang Fan studies the book and thinks that with such sycophancy, it is not surprising that the kings of antiquity easily poison various things. Blind Man Bei stands next to Zhang Fan and says that this morning his subordinates wanted to organize a bandit group outside the city of Hudo. He did not expect that the gentleman would be able to get the recognition of the administration. It will only benefit them. Zhang Fan thinks that Blind Man Bei has spiritual detection. He must have realized that he had almost fallen asleep. Zhang Fan decides that he must behave like an emperor and fill the whole room with his presence. Zhang Fan tells Blind Man Bei that he leaves all the questions concerning how to use this group and how to develop it to him. The town of Kudo is their first stop. After that, they will begin to expand their zone of influence. Liang Cheng says that they cannot afford to waste the 300 horses given to them by the city of Kudo. Blind Man Bei replies that, of course, their next goal is just about this question. The most difficult fact is that the army belongs to the Yan Empire, but in fact it is loyal only to them. Xiao-san corrects him by saying that Blind Man Bei wanted to say that the army is loyal to their lord. Blind Man Bei corrects himself, saying that the army is faithful to their master. Blind Man Bei tells Xiao-san and Fan Lai that they are integrating their old group. Since they're both back, he leaves it to them. Xiao-san says okay, tomorrow he will go along with Ali. Feng Xinyan will be training new girls. She can select the best of them for special training. Blind Man Bei continues, telling Liang Chen that he and the master should practice a little together before they go to Yemen. Liang Chen should also let the gentleman give him a couple of tips, even if they are extremely simple. He'll need them. Zhang Fan thinks about what he can advise Liang Chen. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that he has finished and asks him to make his adjustments. Zhang Fan replies to him that he has already said everything, and he thinks to himself that because of them, his shit is growing by leaps and bounds. Then someone raises his hand, saying stop. This is Ammon, who asks about what about him. Blind Man Bei says that Ammon will have the most important mission. In response, he asks a question, and how then did Bei forget about him? Bei says he's blind. Ammon doesn't know what to say to that. Blind Man Bei says that in order to feed 300 heads of cavalry, they will need a large amount of money. Ammon asks about what he should do. Blind Man Bei tells him that he will have to pick up the soap. Ammon doesn't know what to say to that. There are sounds of bang, boom, ding. Someone tells Zhang Fan that it's already quite late. They should finish for today. Zhang Fan answers well. He's standing in his pants, sweating profusely. He responds well. Zhang Fan thinks to himself that he practiced and was beaten 3 days in a row. Fortunately, his physical strength has increased. Zhang Fan asks Liang Chen if he is sure that he does not want to swim with him. Liang Chen replies to them that he does not like hot water and the gentleman should go without him. Zhang Fan leaves saying okay, then he will call Xinyan. Ammon goes and tells Feng Xinyan that they will release soap first to earn a lot of money. Then they will develop a perfume, and after that many more different products. Feng Xinyan answers him that they should either play big or not play at all. Only in this way they will be able to get the highest profit in a short period of time. Here Feng Xinyan pays attention to something. She notices that Zhang Fan is not with Liang Chen. Then Feng Xinyan starts screaming. She runs away from Ammon, shouting to him that it's all his fault. Because of him she forgot to give the gentleman a massage. Feng Xinyan shouts to the gentleman that she is already coming. Ammon silently and confusedly looks after her. When Feng Xinyan runs away, Ammon asks Liang Chen if his aura has become stronger. Liang Chen replies that there is not, and in his opinion the matter lies in them. Ammon says that it seems that everything does not depend on their own efforts. In his opinion, they will achieve nothing this way. Ammon tells Liang Chen that he thinks they need to come up with a different approach. For example, then they both pay attention to a piece of soap lying on the ground. Ammon tells Liang Chen, who is bent over to get the soap, that he has developed this sample quite recently, and he can use it. Blind Man Bei appears behind their backs and says that they are so close. Ammon asks him if something has happened. Blind Man Bei replies that there will be a meeting in the pavilion tonight. He leaves them, saying that this is all he wanted to say, and they can continue. He adds on the move that how lucky they are that he is blind and has not seen anything. They don't know what to say to him. In the evening, Feng Xinyan talks about what this zombie thinks of himself. He is generally familiar with the concept of delicacy. Zhang Fan says not to take it into her head. He has already managed to relax. Feng Xinyan tells the gentleman that he can think of another way for him to train. She gives a massage to Zhang Fan lying down. He tells her that they will talk about it later. So far, he sees nothing wrong with training his body. Feng Xinyang asks Zhang Fan that then maybe she should ask Ammon to bite him. Zhang Fan asks about her offering him to become a vampire. Feng Xinyang replies that given Ammon's current condition, the number of his vampire conversions is limited. Such an opportunity cannot be granted to the first comer. A little later at the meeting, the topic of today's meeting is announced: cultivation. Blind Man Bei sits at the table and tells Liang Chen that they should talk about the cultivation of the Lord over the past couple of days. Everyone is present at the meeting: Ammon, Fan Lai, Feng Xinyang, Xiao San, and Blind Man Bei. Liang Cheng replies that before that, the gentleman had no combat experience and had no skills, and the reaction was rather slow. Liang Cheng adds that the power of the Lord is truly great. Zhang Fan had only woken up a month ago, and he didn't have time to fully recover. However, at the moment, Zhang Fan's strength is comparable to an adult male practicing martial arts on a regular basis. Blind Man Bei says that he has always been interested in one question: what is the true connection between their powers and the power of their master? The principle of unconditional indulgence remains unshakable, but the problem is that Blind Man Bei holds up his finger and says that they managed to restore a small part of their strength, but that they did not make progress stopped. Feng Xinyang asks Blind Man Bei to find out what he learned and tell them. Blind Man Bei answers her that his guess is that most likely the speed of their recovery is directly related to the strength of their master. If you look at this situation from the point of view of an online game, they are just children. Of course, their level cannot exceed the level of their master. Liang Cheng says that in other words, since the Lord is still at the first level, Ammon says that the growth rate of the master depends only on himself. There is power in them, but the master suppresses it. Blind Man Bei answers his question with the word true. Fan Lai scratches his head and says that if he cuts the master, then this restriction will fall off. Everyone present after this question freezes in silence. Blind Man Bei, Feng Xinyang, Liang Cheng, Zhu San and Ammon ponder Fan Lai's question that if they cut their master, the restriction on the growth of their abilities will be lifted. Liang Cheng puts the kettle on the table and says that when they were ordinary people, they swore that they would let him choose for himself. Then they wanted to protect him. He pours water from the kettle into a cup. Ammon takes the cup in his hand, and Liang Cheng continues to talk about how now after they have regained some of their strength, they have become insatiable. Liang Chen continues, saying that he is ashamed. He knows that he is not suitable for such things, but nevertheless, he invites everyone to drink this wine and forget about what was said here in the same way as about other bad thoughts. Feng Xinyang knocks over a cup of wine. Xiao San is also drinking wine. Ammon is standing with a glass in his hands. Everyone drinks wine. Blind Man Bei says that in order for them all to know, if a player dies, the creatures summoned by him cannot continue their existence. Therefore, they can only become stronger by increasing their master's strength. Blind Man Bei continues, saying that nevertheless their cultivation systems are not suitable for their master, from which it follows that they should find him a teacher. Feng Xinyang tells Blind Man Bei that he called them here to tell them that they can only connect with the master by hiring a teacher for him. Ammon asks Blind Man Bei about why he didn't tell them about it earlier. What is the problem? Xiao San speaks correctly, and tells Blind Bei that it's somehow humiliating. He laughs and says that to be honest, he didn't expect Fan Lai to say it out loud either. Fan Lai asks that he is to blame. Feng Xinyang and Fan Lai are standing on a rock. Feng Xinyang tells the Blind Man Bei that she told her maid to ask the master to wait for their return. Behind them sits Blind Man Bei, surrounded by Ammon, Liang Zhong and Xiao San. Feng Xinyang asks Blind Man Bei that he is sure that the teacher will take place here. He replies that they had already discussed everything last night, and today they even discovered their goal. Xiao San asks Blind Man Bei that he thought everything through from the very beginning. Didn't he? Blind Man Bei says that in their opinion he should not have done it. The fact is that the wife of the captain of the guard sent him a message through her maid. Today her husband is due to have a business trip and she asked him to send her water charms in order to help her get pregnant. Xiao San laughs at his words. Blind Man Bei draws patterns in the sand, saying that the maid also said that today one bandit will be sent to a neighboring city for testing. Besides being a former official, he is also a martial artist. Xiao San says that a recognized martial artist is such a person really suitable for the role of a teacher for their master. Liang Cheng asks about how big their convoy will be. Ammon says that as far as he knows, they managed to cripple him. It does not seem to them that because of this, his opportunities as a teacher have been reduced many times. Blind Man Bei says that last night they were discussing a suitable candidate for the role of teacher for their master, and today they found a suitable target. And what does it mean? It means that heaven is on their side. The Lord gave them this opportunity. It's fate. The Lord watches over their master because he is the chosen one. They cannot afford to disregard the will of the Lord, they must obey the destiny. It is an honor for them to follow their master. Zio-san shouts to Blind Bei that he is a blind fool. He's completely out of his mind. The gentleman is not here, so why did he decide to shuffle in front of him? Then Zhang Fan approaches them on horseback. Zio-san, seeing this, shouts to Bei that he cheated with his spiritual detection. Zhang Fan on horseback is approaching them. He asks everyone that they were going to find him a teacher. He says they have no aspirations. Zhang Fan thinks to himself that when other people are looking for teachers, they are looking for a relationship in which they can discuss something. But when it comes to him, they are directly trying to steal from someone. Zhu-san says Mr. But Blind Bei puts his hand on his shoulder and mentally tells him to shut up. Blind Man Bei says that they have managed to achieve a large network of kiosks and will soon be hunted for them. And at that moment, their only defense will be their own strength. So, Zhang Fan says well, they can make the necessary decisions. Blind Man Bei thinks that now is not the time to tell the master that he can restrain their strength. Otherwise he will certainly start thinking about what Fan Lai said last night. And in this case, their relationship will be in danger. Blind Man Bei says out loud that since the master has given them his permission, they should be ready. This time all 6 will participate. Blind Man Bei corrects himself by saying all 7. He asks everyone if everything is clear to them. Ammon, Liang Cheng and Zio-san think that Bei is a blind bastard who did not consider the master to be a person. Zio-san tells Zhang Fan that he has just returned from tiling. He managed to discover that another group is following their target. It looks like it's going to be even more confusing this time. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that they are waiting for his decision. Zhang Fan replies that it is difficult to find a decent teacher in his time. Here a column goes past their place. Zhang Fan says that if, according to the saying, a mantis catches a cicada while a sparrow is waiting behind, and isn't it better to be a sparrow? He wipes his dagger with a smile with a handkerchief. Night is falling on the neighborhood. People rush to attack, shouting that the enemy is attacking. One of the guards draws his sword. The man sitting in the cage tells the guard that these are people from northern Fengliu. He knows about their dealings with the barbarians. They will never let him go. He tells the guard, calling him Baby Li, to take his men away. This is the captain of the patrol of the city of Hudo, Wang Lai. He, taking out his sword, rushes into battle, sitting astride a horse. The man in the cage shouts at his back that didn't he tell him that his daughter-in-law is pregnant. He shouldn't die in vain. He shouts at him to go back. The man sadly says that the guard could live, so why is he? This is the former captain of the city of Hudo, Ding Zhu. Here all the guards take their heads, covering their ears. This is Blind Man Bei playing, making music and asking about where he can find a bosom friend in this world. The guards rush at him, drawing their weapons. Feng Xinyan laughs. She attacks the guards with silver threads and they die. Liang Cheng and Ammon also rush into battle. Zio-san also does not stand aside and rushes to the attack. Fan Lai takes Ding Ru on his shoulder and leaves. Blind Man Bei says that Ammon, Liang Cheng and Zio-san will cover their retreat, and Feng Xinyan will clear the way for them, and they will escape from here. Wang Lai is half sitting on the ground and coughing in pain. He falls to the ground without strength. The enemy runs at Bei, unsheathing his weapon. He starts playing a musical instrument again and his enemy dies. Ding Ru thinks that if this killer was able to defeat Little Lai, then he was on the threshold of level 9. He doesn't understand why this blind man killed the guard so easily. Blind Man Bei tells Ailin that it's time for them to go. He follows him swiftly. Wang Lai turns to the blind man Bei, asking if he could convey his last words to his wife. He sighs and asks the warrior not to worry. He will take care of her. Zhang Fan is riding, looking ahead. Here he is struck by something. Fan Lai rushes to him at all times with a man on his shoulder. Zhang Fan shouts to Fan Lai to quickly put the man on the horse. The man runs past him screaming. Zhang Fan stretches out his hand and asks him to wait a minute. A little later, Zhang Fan is sitting at a table, and behind him are Blind Man Bei and Feng Xinyan. Blind Man Bei says that it took them some time to get rid of the enemy. Fortunately, the teacher was unharmed. Fan Lai sent him back first. Zhang Fan speaks well in response. He asks to let the teacher go down. Blind Man Bei congratulates the gentleman, saying that he now has a teacher. Zhang Fan thinks that he finally got his teacher back. Zio-san tells the gentleman that it looks like things are bad. When Fan Lai returned to the city, it seemed to him that he was somewhat agitated. But this looks like his teacher died. Zhang Fan thinks that this is some kind of joke. The next day, Zhang Fan stands and looks at the Blind Man Bei and the man lying on the grass. Zhang Fan asks Bei if the man is alive. He thinks to himself that he spent the whole day and the person they brought back was turned inside out. This is some kind of joke. Blind Man Bei checks the pulse of a man and calls the master. He talks about being a psychiatrist. Zhang Fan immediately adds ruefully that it seems to him that there is no hope. Ding Zhu has no pulse or breathing. Blind Man Bei says well, then he offers to bury the man. But he immediately adds that, however, if they bury him, it will be a huge loss. I remember they have a beautiful flower garden in their backyard. He suggests chopping Ding Zhu into pieces and making fertilizer out of them. They should do with him the same as with the others before him. Zhang Fan closes his eyes and says okay. He agrees. He thinks to himself that next to Blind Bei, he always feels out of place. Maybe it's because he's not crazy enough. There's a sound. It's Ding Zhu. He's awake. Immediately, the Blind Man Bei shouts to the master to look. The teacher has woken up. As expected from his teacher, being tainted by the Lord's dacha, he is still worthy of help from heaven. Blind Man Bei tells Zhang Fan that before they can call this person their teacher, they need to discuss the necessary etiquette with him. Therefore, he asks to leave the case to his subordinates. He is confident that from tomorrow Zhang Fan will be able to start his training. Zhang Fan asks Bei to be polite to the teacher and not to be rude to him. Blind Man Bei stands in front of Ding Zhu with Feng Xinyan and tells him that as far as they know, he is a martial artist and they should talk about it. Blind Man Bei says that if Ding Ru agrees to teach their master martial arts, they will ensure his safety. Ding Zhu says that as he said, he doesn't remember agreeing to be their master's teacher. Such words make Blind Man Bei and Feng Xinyan angry. She says that she has seen a huge number of heroes turned into real cowards after being tortured. Blind Man Bei says that after all, this is their master's teacher, and the master taught them to convince people with the help of virtue. But then he suddenly remembered that the day before yesterday, the wife of the patrol captain, Wang Lai, owed him a certain amount of money for the revelation. He tells Feng Xinyan that she can go there right now and cut out his entire family. These words make Ding Zhu angry. Blind Man Bei pretends not to see his reaction and says, asking for forgiveness, that they had to deal with a personal matter, so he said. Ding Ru lowers his head, saying that he agrees. Ding Ru thinks to himself that Little Lai's daughter-in-law was pregnant, but he lost his life trying to protect him. Should he involve his family in this because of some little thing? Blind Man Bei says Xinyan. He leaves, saying that he thought and decided that they should not cut out the whole family for some money. It's against what their master taught them, so they should just forget about it. Blind Man Bei tells Master Dean that from now on he will live here. So far, this is all the information that they are ready to give him. If they are satisfied with the quality of their training, they will be ready to discuss with him the amount of further compensation. For example, they might consider restoring his cultivation to the state it was in before he was injured. He looks in shock at the Blind Man Bei and asks that he is trying to deceive him. Blind Man Bei answers no, they just treat their people very generously. He leaves, saying that he promises Ding Ru that on the day when his master reaches cultivation, he will regain his strength. After that, Ding Ru will be able to take revenge on the so-called Northern Feng Liu family on his own. If Ding Ru manages to establish a good relationship with their master, and he gives them an order, then they will help him accomplish his revenge. A little later, Blind Man Bei stands by a tree and tells Feng Xinyan that, as he said, they should convince people with the help of virtues. You shouldn't think about torture all the time, it's too primitive. Feng Xinyan, closing his eyes, says that's right, he taught her a worthy lesson. She goes on to say that she knew he was a real devil, but she didn't think he could be so ruthless. How dare he threaten the life of Wang Lai's family? Blind Man Bei replies that Wang Lai gave his life protecting Ding Ru. Isn't it appropriate to bully him by relying on the life of Wang Lin's family? Feng Xinyan replies with a smile, which is still appropriate. But is he ready to kill his own unborn child? Blind Man Bei tells Feng Xinyan that the baby in her belly is not from him. She asks him with a smile that he is infertile. Blind Man Bei replies that he did not touch her, but only forced her to drink intoxicating water, and used it to help her manage her emotions. She calmed her emotions and managed to get pregnant. Feng Xinyan exhales and talks about what he hadn't told her before. She had already thought that he was ready to part with his own child. Well, he scared her. Blind Man Bei says that he is pure and noble, but on the contrary, she is dirty and evil. He asks Feng Xinyan if she could call Ammon here. Blind Man Bei continues, saying that a little later he will ask their warrior for a Kai circulation card. She needs to take it and place it in Ammon's body. Feng Xinyan says that if the needle gets stuck in Ammon's body, it will hurt him. Blind Man Bei asks Feng Xinyan if she can hold on. She licks her lips and says she can't. In the house, someone says that each family has its own method of martial arts training. First, their family will need to concentrate Kai in an empty point. Coins are showered on the man's body, and the question is this point here. This is Feng Xinyan, who sticks a needle into Ammon's body. She continues by saying that after the Kai gathers at this point, it will split into 5 directions. Blind Man Bei says that Kai will move towards the head and limbs. Ammon says that one wrong move and he is a corpse. Feng Xinyan asks him not to worry, she knows what she is doing. Ding Zhu asks Mr. Bei about why they should not draw this diagram on paper. He answers him that everything will be fine, the drawing will not be informative enough, and the human body is perfect for a visual example. He asks Xinyan to continue. He asks Ammon to concentrate the power in his body and use his heart and lungs as a gas pedal. He needs to accelerate the flow of Kai with the help of his blood circulation over and over again. Ammon replies that is, after repeating this cycle many times, they will be able to accelerate all bodily functions, thereby strengthening them many times, and then the body will begin to shine. Ding Ru says right, if his body starts to shine, it will mean that the threshold of the martial arts realm has been reached. In this state, he would be able to take the role of a small leader in the army. It took him 10 years to become a level 9 martial artist, and even such a period is considered quite fast. Blind Man Bei says to try anyway. The necessary route is already emblazoned on Ammon's body, so he can easily follow it. Ammon replies that he is a vampire and knows nothing about his Kai and blood Kai. Blind Man Bei says that maybe this is true, but nevertheless Amini is able to control the blood. You just need to direct it to the right place. If the blood moves fast enough, it will be able to attract the wind, and this wind will become the Kai they need. Ammon answers him that it is difficult to argue with his words. Ding Zhu says that it is not necessary to put all your efforts at once, it needs to be done gradually. First, he needs to strengthen his body and achieve a strong physique. No matter how lucky someone is, this risk cannot be reduced in any way. He will not be able to achieve it all at once. Here, energy begins to sparkle around Ammon. Ding Zhu repeats this in shock. He thinks to himself that Ammon was just lying on the table. Feng Xinyan puts his hand to his cheek. She says pink for a young girl is not bad, she likes it. Ammon tells her that only not at her age. Feng Xinyan tells him that it's much better than his damn red color. Blind Man Bei tells Ammon that he will get dressed a little later, she also wants to try. Ammon asks the Blind Man Bei that he is blind, then what difference does it make to him whether he is dressed or not? Blind Man Bei says that he wants to feel himself at some kind of ceremony. Blue energy begins to swirl around Bei, and he says that it's quite simple. He notes that the blue color is not bad, it is quite ancient and unique. Xiao-san seeing this suggests that this is the same cultivation system created for their master. Blind Man Bei tells Xiao-san, Fan Lai and Liang Chen that they are just in time, they should try it too. Ammon says that he wants to get dressed. Liang Chen's energy is purple. Ammon laughs at him, but Feng Xinyan tells him who would talk. Green energy swirls around Xiao-san and he asks if he can change the color, maybe it can be repainted. Feng Xinyan laughs at him, saying that he congratulates him, this is the color of nature itself. It will help him hide when attacked in the wilderness. They are interrupted by Fan Lai, glowing yellow. Blind Man Bei says that while they can only reach half of the way to the 9th level, the next step will be. He says that to be honest, this process seems to him quite simple, but they will not be able to speed it up by force. After all, they are all held back by an invisible barrier. Therefore, their next step is very simple. Blind Man Bei shouts loudly that they should do everything possible to help their master. At noon the next day, someone says that this is usually how they convey their martial arts, and the question is whether everything is clear. Zhang Fan clenching his fist says exactly what he should have understood. Feng Xinyan and Ammon are standing behind him. Zhang Fan stands, concentrating, and thinks that he just listened to a bunch of theories and looked a little at the lines on Ammon's body. That's all it will take for him to ascend to heaven. It seems to him that they all think too highly of him. He looks at Master Ding Ru and thinks that it looks like the master is also a very ordinary person. He is not as crazy as the others. Blind Man Bei tells Mr. Dean if there is any easier way. Maybe something like external stimulation. The master starts from scratch, so he needs simpler and more straightforward instructions. Ding Zhu says that indeed, it is much more difficult for some people to sense the presence of Kai in their body, so they have to take the powder ears to stimulate their evil Kai. He attacks a person's body with his aura to muddy the inner Kai. Blind Man Bei talks about Liang Chen using his evil Kai to stimulate the master's meridians. He speaks well, but his Kai is pure and it can be controlled, but it will hurt a little. He points forward with his finger, directing his Kai. He puts his finger against Zhang Fan's chest, directing Kai into her. Zhang Fan feels a slight displacement and numbness. He has a slight pain in his body. Then Zhang Fan opens his eyes. Foam starts coming out of his mouth. Xiao-san shouts at Liang Chen to stop. He removes his finger from Zhang Fan's chest. Ammon asks Liang Chen if he has infected the gentleman with corpse poison. Liang Chen replies that he is sure that not a drop of corpse poison has entered the master's body. Zhang Fan sinks to the floor. He is being held by Feng Xinyan and Xiao-san. She shouts to Liang Chen that this is what he calls sure. Blind Man Bei asked him to stimulate the master with the help of his evil Kai. Her eyes light up with purple fire. She continues, shouting to Liang Chen that he did a great job. Because of him, the gentleman almost earned himself Alzheimer's. Liang Chen says it's out of the question. He had poured only a small fraction of his evil Kai into the master's body, and given the current level of his strength, it shouldn't have been that bad. Ding Zhu says that perhaps the reason for this reaction is the extremely dense blood and Kai that flows in the Lord. They look like an armful of dry wood that Liang Chen set on fire with his Kai. Blind Man Bei asks what it means that their master has a predisposition to martial arts. Feng Xinyan, Ammon and Liang Chen are happy about this. This means that their master is really strong. Later, Blind Man Bei sits by Zhang Fan's bed. He lies and opening his eyes comes to himself. Blind Man Bei asks Zhang Fan about how he feels. He feels his Kai. Zhang Fan replies yes, she is so dense. Ding Zhu says that when an ordinary person begins to study martial arts, initially he is able to feel only blood, small trickles of blood flowing in his body. But at the moment, Zhang Fan is able to feel the circulation of his dense Kai, and that's fine. Blind Man Bei says congratulations. All his confidants tell the gentleman that he is exceptionally talented. They congratulate him. A great fate awaits him. They all look at Blind Bei and think that it was close. They almost let this freak suck up to the master first. Zhang Fan raises his hand, asking them not to make noise. A little later at night, Blind Man Bei asks Xiao-san why he went to Ding Hao. He replies that he wanted to ask what kind of food can help a person improve their skills. Perhaps it could help their master increase his strength from 9 to 8 or even level 7. Blind Man Bei says that in this case they may face the consequences of growing too fast. Suddenly, the master will be stuck forever at level 7, in which case the same fate awaits them. Blind Man Bei smiles and tells Xiao-san that he advises him not to be clever. If they find out that he is going to give the master some kind of drug, Blind Man Bei starts laughing. Xiao-san says that this is just in case. He didn't really plan on giving them to him. Blind Man Bei looks at the sky and says that they went a little overboard today. They tried to take too big a bite. Besides, none of them knows for sure when Mo Wang will wake up. Xiao-san asks about how it concerns their Mo Wang. Blind Man Bei smiles and talks about what will happen if they continue to put pressure on their master as it was today. Either he wants to stay with them even more, or he decides to live with Mo Wan. Xiao-san tells Bei that he admits that he has always been quite smart and has always been able to read other people. But Bei doesn't know anything about Mo Wang's character and habits. Didn't Bei wonder why Mo Wang still hadn't taken off his seal? Blind Man Bei asks Xiao-san what he can tell him. Xiao-san says that it seems to him that if Mo Wang really wakes up, the first thing he will do is kill their master and leave this world. Mo Wang yells at Zhang Fan about whether he deserves to be his father. Zhang Fan is lying in a hot spring in the courtyard. Feng Xinyan is sitting on the ground next to him. She asks the gentleman if he likes these vineyards. They seem too big to her. The most delicious vineyards should be slightly smaller and have a creamy taste. Zhang Fan replies that it is not necessary to say such vulgarities in the middle of the night. Feng Xinyan puts a grape in Zhang Fan's open mouth and asks the gentleman if they are not pushing him too hard. He answers no. It was just that today he felt like he had caught a fever just because of the evil Kai. Of course, this is not pleasant enough. Feng Xinyan asks that then maybe she should give him a massage. Zhang Fan answers her no. He'll stay here a little longer and then he'll go to bed. He has classes scheduled for tomorrow. Feng Xinyan leaves with a plate of grapes and says that then she will leave the master and wishes him a good rest. Feng Xinyan thinks to himself that although the Lord is an ordinary person, at the same time he is the one who created all of them. The author, immersed in the horror of Manhwa, remained the same. He must be a sensual and lonely person deep down. Feng Xinyan feels like they are pushing him too hard. She thinks that maybe she should tell the master the truth. Zhang Fan, after her departure, says that it was not pleasant, but he could not increase his strength in any other way. He doesn't understand why the guys even show respect to such a shitty gentleman like him. Isn't it all weird? Here Zhang Fan draws attention to the lying stone. He says son. Zhang Fan comes out of the water. Leaving, Zhang Fan tells the stone where his son is locked up that dad misses him. After that, the stone begins to glow green, as does the water around it. The stone flies up, the water swirls around it. The symbol on the stone glows green. Blind Man Bei is sitting at the table and writing something. Here he is very surprised by something. He says Mo Wan. He feels a very strong thirst for murder and wonders if it is directed at him, or else this killing intent is directed at Mo Wang's father. In the afternoon, Zhang Fan walks through the courtyard with Feng Xinyan. Zhang Fan says that the people who were forcibly forced to deliver food have already returned. How many of them managed to survive? Feng Xinyan replies that it looks like only a couple hundred survived. This morning, most of the families in the city started holding funerals. Ahead of them are people in a funeral procession. Feng Xinyan tells the gentleman that he returned just after his merits, so he was ahead of them by a few days. A lot of people died this time. It seems to her that soon a census will be held in the city of Kudo again. Zhang Fan replies that it turns out that they took in refugees to keep their tax revenues. Then Liang Cheng approaches them and calls the gentleman. He approaches them and informs them that the magistrate has just sent an order that they must appear at the courthouse before noon. Zhang Fan asks about something happening. Later, Zhang Fan leaves the building. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that he congratulates him. Now they are members of the board. Zhang Fan replies that the next step they will have to take advantage of this provision. Blind Man Bei rolls up the document and tells the gentleman that he heard that. He continues by saying that the problem of orphans will be discussed at this meeting. Zhang Fan says, well, hundreds of orphans have been admitted to orphanages today because of the war, and he is sure that there will be even more of them in the future. They plan to tie them to lieutenants of all levels. Zhang Fan continues, saying that it's good that he managed to make a few cigarettes. Blind Bei replies to the gentleman that it seems to him that they should reconsider the decision to adopt orphans. Liang Cheng says that since this is an order from above, they will be forced to take in 1 or 2 children. After all, they should distribute these children according to the power and influence of each person. Blind Man Bei replies that he says he is against this idea. On the contrary, it seems to him that it will be too little. Liang Cheng asks Blind Man Bei about how many orphans he needs. Blind Man Bei replies that he needs everyone. He continues, saying that if they get all the orphans, they will have an empty house on their hands, in which they will be able to arrange a shelter. Liang Cheng asks Blind Man Bei that he is crazy. He is going to open a shelter. Zhang Fan thinks that it seems to him that these are the consequences of the 404 rule that his Manhwa was subjected to. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that he thinks about it only because he wants to personally nurture the future generation. Blind Man Bei lights up Zhang Fan's cigar and says that this way they will be able to weed out a defective product that does not fit their plans, even at the very beginning of his journey. In addition, in this way they will be able to win everyone's love and attention. Zhang Fan lights a cigar. He replies to Blind Bei that it is much easier to understand him when he expresses himself in this way. Zhang Fan tells Blind Man Bei and Liang Chen that it's time for them to return. They have a lot of work ahead of them. Ding Ru tells Zhang Fan that he thinks they can finish their training today. Zhang Fan should remember this feeling. Tomorrow they will try to speed up this process. Zhang Fan asks Ding Ru about how long he should shine like this. He sits on bent legs, yellow energy sparkles around him. Ding Zhu replies to him that haste will not speed up his path to the goal. Given the current progress, he would be able to be halfway to the 9th level in 3 days at most. In 2 months, he will be able to fully reach this stage. Zhang Fan says that then the master can rest today. He will come tomorrow afternoon. Ding Ru smiles back. Zhang Fan leaves, leaving the master alone. After he leaves, Ding Ru thinks that with the exception of those 6 psychos who reached halfway to the 9th level in the blink of an eye, this person's talents frighten him. He remembers that they said he was teaching them, but it's more like they're just holding him back. Ding Zhu leans his head against his hand and wonders if all these people are really disciples of some big sect that enjoy a quiet life. At other times, Zhang Fan is sitting on a chair, and Blind Man Bei is standing next to him and tells the gentleman that after lunch, he and San will go to a company soap and perfume for sale in the city of Tumen. And Ollie and the 2 remaining ones went to the desert again to see if they could bring more people here. Zhang Fan, lighting a cigarette, asks that 3 people will definitely be enough for this task. Blind Man Bei replies that he warned them not to take any action unless they were completely sure. Blind Man Bei says that given the speed of their movements, most likely they will need about a month to search for information. Zhang Fan replies that he doesn't quite understand what exactly Bei wants to say. Blind Man Bei says what he means is that he has nothing to worry about. He thinks to himself that 1 month will be enough for the master to reach the 9th level. Blind Man Bei says that by the way, since 5 of them are absent at the moment, starting tomorrow night, Xinyan will be next to him 24/7. Zhang Fan choked on smoke after these words. Clearing his throat, Zhang Fan asks Bei if he is sure that this is a good idea. Blind Man Bei says that they cannot risk his safety. Xinyan will be responsible for protecting him. Of course, if he manages to reach the 9th level faster, it will greatly ease her burden. Blind Man Bei tells the gentleman that he could not always carry Mo Wang with him. Jiang Fan replies that Mo Wang does not come out. Blind Man Bei says that he is sure that if he is in danger, Mo Wang will certainly show up. Jiang Fan asks Bei if he thinks Mo Wang still loves him. Blind Man Bei answers him no. He thinks that he is just dreaming about taking a look at Jiang Fan before his death. He doesn't know what to say to that. Bei continues, telling the gentleman that he needs to prepare for the journey, so he asks him to forgive him. Jiang Fan says go. Blind Man Bei is leaving. Then someone behind his back says that this is too much. Blind Man Bei turns around. This is Feng Xinyan, who says that there are 5 people, 20-30 letters from each. She asks Bei about how long it will take her to read them all, what she did to everyone to deserve it. Blind Man Bei replies that he hopes Feng Xinyan will write back to him. Since they won't be there, then she can write them something good. Feng Xinyan sternly tells him to get lost already. She wonders why they, the men, can afford to go somewhere to have fun while she is forced to stay here alone. And after that, Bei still wants her to write them something nice, for whom he holds her. Blind Man Bei replies to Feng Xinyan that they are holding her by a battery that is strong enough to replace 6 ordinary batteries. At night, Feng Xinyan's hands fall on Jiang Fan's back. He tells Feng Xinyan that okay, enough massage for today. He wants to rest. Feng Xinyan says no sir, she wants to sleep in the same bed as him. The others aren't here right now, so she can't leave him for a second. Feng Xinyan continues, saying that if Blind Man Bei was here, she wouldn't have to worry about his safety. But since he is not there and she does not have such techniques, Jiang Fan asks Feng Xinyan if it is not a burden to her. She closes her eyes in frustration and asks the gentleman if he really wants her to sleep on the floor. She opens her eyes burning with purple fire and asks Jiang Fan if he really hates her so much. Jiang Fan confusedly replies that he didn't mean it. He should stop being so sensitive. He says well, they can sleep together, he doesn't mind. Feng Xinyan says with a smile that in this case she will go to her room and change clothes, whether he has any preferences. She will bring some outfits so that Jiang Fan has plenty to choose from. He confusedly answers well. After she leaves, Jiang Fan thinks that in her opinion, he is some kind of stone without needs. Such daily massages excite him too much. Besides, he's been training his Kai and blood lately, so. Then Jiang Fan abruptly grabs his head, saying what's going on. Jiang Fan faints. Feng Xinyan returns, telling the gentleman that she is back. She thinks about little Mo Wang. Maybe when he comes back, he will call her mom. Then she screams about what happened to her clothes, why she turned into paper. Glowing purple pieces of paper begin to fly around her. Immediately there is an explosion. Feng Xinyan coughs while standing in the smoke. Then a huge clawed paw reaches out of the smoke towards her. She grabs Feng Xinyan. She can't even move in shock. The stone in which it was locked emits purple smoke. Jiang Fan regains consciousness coughing. Jiang Fan thinks Mo Fan, and he asks her what she wanted him to call her. Jiang Fan is lying in bed with his eyes closed. The sun's rays fall on his face. Jiang Fan opens his eyes. He gets out of bed, wiping his face with his hand. Jiang Fan pays attention to Feng Xinyan lying on the floor. He thinks about the fact that they didn't agree to sleep in the same bed. Feng Xinyan also opens his eyes. She gets up and sleepily stretches and asks Jiang Fan that he has already woken up. His servant will wait until he has washed himself. Jiang Fan answers well. He thinks to himself about what happened, which is to be expected. He's just another man she decided to tease. A little later, Jiang Fan washed his face and Feng Xinyan helps him get dressed. She tells the gentleman that breakfast is ready. She tells him to go ahead. The servant also needs to clean himself up. Jiang Fan speaks well. Here Jiang Fan draws attention to Mo Wang's stone. He wonders if he didn't leave it on the bed. He takes the stone in his hand, thinking that probably Xinyan put it away. The same one looks at how he leaves. Feng Xinyan is upset after his departure that she thought that something would work out with her master. But who would have thought that Mo Wang would get in her way? She asks Mo Wang a question about whether he loves his father so much or hates him on the contrary. She takes off her nightgown and says to Mo Wang that if he loves Jiang Fan so much, it means that he does not want a stepmother. If Mo Wang hates Jiang Fan, it means that he won't let him touch a woman. It must be hard to be his father. It's hard to be ambitious in old age, but he's a lucky man. How difficult it is to become a stepmother. Someone says that they heard that last night someone destroyed and captured the fort of the Mei family, located outside the city. They dared to pull off something like this right under the nose of the Jiang Bei army. Aren't they afraid that they'll just be cleaned up? After the forces of the Mei family were defeated, the flag of the Jiang Bei army was hung on the wall. Jiang Fan is thinking about the Mei family's fort. If his memory serves him right, then they had a rather weak army. In addition, their fort is located halfway to the cities of Kyoto and Tumen. But due to the fact that they had the support of both cities, most of the troops did not dare to meddle with them. Zhang Fan is sitting on a chair and drinking tea, and 3 men are standing next to him and talking to each other. One of them tells the others that Marquis Zhenbei has been under a lot of oppression for the past few years. Is there not enough problems for him? Others say that if his memory does not change, the leader of the army is a lieutenant with the surname Zheng. Did the head of the district himself order him to do this? Who was at the head of that team? One of the men asks Zheng and immediately laughs, saying that they also have a captain with the surname Zheng. The other answers yes. Is it really their captain who went on a night out and destroyed the Mei family? The third guy answers them that the man had the rank of lieutenant of the Zhenbei army and led the soldiers. It seems that their captain is also a lieutenant. Zhang Fan spits out water after these words. All the men immediately turn their heads and pay attention to him. Zhang Fan sits and thinks captain, surname Zheng, Zhenbei army. He thinks that he should not be told only that it is their handiwork. A man approaches him and asks Lieutenant Zhen about his official title. Zhang Fan says that it belongs to the Zhenbei army located in the city of Kyoto. Zhang Fan continues by saying that he is the captain of the merchant's guard. The man asks him about the intentions of the Zhenbei army. Zhang Fan thinks to himself that he would like to know what her intentions are. He doesn't know what they've been doing since they left the inn. Zhang Fan gets up and leaves. At the exit, Zhang Fan asks a question about why he would explain to someone the plans of Marquis Zhenbei. Zhu Wenju sternly slams his hand on the table. He shouts Zhang Fan words, Marquis Zhenbei, what self-confidence. He is standing on the carpet in front of him. Zhu Wenju shouts a question about what crime the Mei family committed. Zhang Fan replies that most of their actions can be considered crimes. Zhu Wenju screams that this is just speculation. This is the city of Kyoto and this is its court. He shouts to Zhang Fan that he really thinks that he will not punish him for such insolence in his presence. Zhang Fan replies that he has no comment. He thinks to himself that now all the problems have fallen on his shoulders, except he doesn't know what's going on. What can he do other than continue this performance? Zhu Wenju takes out his sword, saying excellent. Zhang Fan stands and does not move. He realizes that he is shivering. But it's not just a chill, it's a thirst for murder. Mo Wang's stone begins to glow in his pocket. Blue energy begins to sparkle around him. Zhang Fan realizes that Mo Wang has woken up. Mo Wang is an adopted child with 9 lives. In each of his lives, his parents disowned him immediately after his birth. The anger that lurks inside him is enough to purify this world with blood. If Blind Bei and Sinyan can be called his adopted children, the work he took over when his partner left, then Mo Wang can be considered his native son, because he created him from beginning to end. And now everything has come to the point that his own son threatens his position. Mo Wang laughs behind Zhang Fan's back. Zhu Wenju throws aside the sword. He takes Zhang Fan by the shoulder and asks him why he is at home. Then Mo Wang disappears behind him. Zhang Fan replies that the young lady is fine. He thinks to himself that Mo Wang seems to have calmed down after the man lowered his tone. Zhu Wenju says that he recently happened to pass through the gates of hell. He wipes away tears, saying that unfortunately the young lady also had a hard time. His Excellency had to go to the capital, so the Marquis's family can only count on the young lady's help. Zhang Fan, looking at the man, thinks that it looks like he is a spy of the Zhenbei army. He never thought that he would become a participant in a spy movie. Zhu Wenju continues, saying that he remembers that the Zhang Fan family moved to the city of Kyoto about 6 months ago. He asks Zhang Fan that he came here on behalf of the young lady. Zhang Fan wonders if he will be able to extract some information from him. He says out loud that the lady saved his life. His father and his grandfather were servants of the Li family. Zhang Fan continues by saying that his father is Zhang Chenggong and his grandfather is Zhang Jilong. They happen to be strangers. Zhu Wenju replies with a smile that he has heard from them. Besides, it seems like they once drank together with his father. He continues, saying that it turns out that integration into the ranks of the underground gang of the city of Kyoto is also an order of the mistress. Zhang Fan answers, right, the first step. He does not have time to finish, as Zhu Wenju puts his palm to his mouth and tells him to be silent. He asks about how he can say such things to an outsider like him. He asks him not to be so trusting next time. When Zhu Wenju removes his hand from Zhang Fan's mouth, Zhang Fan replies to His Excellency that he is right. Zhu Wenju says that he will take care of the fortress of the Mei family. If he has any problems in the future, then he can go to him right away. If one day the lady wants to get the whole hut for herself, then Zhang Fan should just say so. Zhang Fan mentally thanks the writers of spy films, because without them he wouldn't know what to do. Zhu Wenju, clenching his fists, says that he will personally open the gates to the lady and offer her this city. Zhang Fan thinks that today's barrier has been successfully passed. A few days later, it's night, the moon is shining brightly in the sky. Zhang Fan is lying in a hot spring, and Feng Xinyan is sitting next to him on the ground. Zhang Fan says that they actually sent him letters. However, only letters from the blind man Bei were useful. Mo Wang's stone floats in the water in front of him. Zhang Fan talks about why he has a feeling that the Mei family fortress may be the first to attack them. In that case, it would be better if they attacked them themselves, and he is obliged to put on the skin of the Zhenbei army to deal with the reports of the city of Hudo. Precisely because if it wasn't for the fact that he is the highest official of the city of Hudo, and part-time spy of the Marquis of the Zhenbei army, he would have been dead long ago. Feng Xinyan asks the master that he is probably tired of daily training. She massages Zhang Fan's head and asks him how he thinks when he gets his rank. Zhang Fan replies to her that Ding Hao said that in order to fully control the blood and Kai, sometimes only a case is missing. He doesn't know, maybe when he opens his eyes tomorrow, he will already have this rank. Feng Xinyan tells the master that he knows there is a gap in his heart. Zhang Fan replies nothing like that and laughs. Feng Xinyan says that in her opinion, this gap is right in front of his eyes. Zhang Fan immediately gets up abruptly and says that he is tired and needs to rest. Feng Xinyan tells the master that he remembers that Mo Wang is a spirit who needs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It seems to her that he can easily make up for it if he puts him somewhere in the yard for the night so that he can absorb the moon essence. Zhang Fan asks her if it will work. Feng Xinyan tells the master that he should at least listen to what the others are telling him. Even if a thief gets in here, who would think of stealing a broken stone? Zhang Fan says let's try, and he puts the stone down. Feng Xinyan hugs Zhang Fan and they leave, and green magic begins to sparkle around the stone. Zhang Fan asks about the fact that the wind has increased. Feng Xinyan replies that it may be the north wind, but it doesn't matter, this is the norm for this region. At the same time, the green magic from Mo Wang's amulet is getting stronger. Feng Xinyan tells the master that he should undress him first. Mo Wang the evil appears from the amulet. He's furious. In the house at this time, Feng Xinyan is kneading the shoulders of Zhang Fan, who, like her, is standing in a bathrobe. Feng Xinyan is thinking about Mo Wang. She knows why Mo Wang is afraid to appear before the master, but since he continues to avoid him, Feng Xinyan does not believe that Mo Wang would dare to break in here, but besides. Here Feng Xinyan interrupts his thoughts and hugs Zhang Fan, thinking about how she can let go of the desired man. The creators of it and Mo Wang did not annoy him in any way, but Mo Wang still wants to protect his father from relationships with other women. Zhang Fan, after a swift embrace, Feng Xinyan is embarrassed and calls her by her last name. She leans into his ear and whispers to the master that he has several bruises on his chest. She will help him get rid of them. He confusedly tells Feng Xinyan that he doesn't want her to do this. In response, she asks Zhang Fan that he does not trust her. He answers no. Feng Xinyan tells the master that his blood is still overloaded. This needs to be dealt with as quickly as possible. Zhang Fan replies well, then she should try. Feng Xinyan asks permission to allow his servant to drain it with his own hands. Zhang Fan replies well, okay. In the morning, Zhang Fan gets up and stretches sleepily in bed. Then his eyes open wide. He is shocked to think that he really got a rank. Tumen City is a point of commercial exchange between the Dayan region and the western regions. Blind Man Bei plays the piano and says that initially they only wanted to talk about soap and perfume. He sits at the instrument and plays while a merchant of the western region, Wen Ti, is sitting in the chair. Zhu-san puts a knife to Wen Ti's throat. Blind Man Bei continues, saying that Wen Ti asked them to change their methods and as they say. Immediately, 5 men burst into the room with weapons in their hands and rush at Blind Bei. He says that people can be very cheap. He continues to play the piano and says that the perfume and soap are ready and, to be honest, they can even give them a secret recipe. Men with guns are swept off their feet, they scream in shock. Blind Man Bei says that before anyone else finds out the ingredients, they can easily earn a huge amount of money. Blind Man Bei continues with a smile, saying that in return for this they only ask for a little silver, 600 high-class horses, and 300 sets of armor and weapons. They need them to imitate the equipment of the Zhenbei army, and he is sure that they will be able to get something similar. He asks Wen Ti what he will say. He answers sweating profusely and says that he just wants to know why until today they hid their location after they brought him perfume and soap. Blind Man Bei replies that they were waiting for the money to appear. During the day, Zhang Fan sits and concentrates on his Kai. Ding Zhu looks at the energy around him and says in shock that it is black. Zhang Fan asks that this is some kind of special type. Ding Zhu replies that it is actually a fairly common variety. Zhang Fan asks Ding Zhu why he is so surprised then. He asks Zhang Fan if he is joking. Since Zhang Fan has reached his rank, it means that his career as a teacher has come to an end. He continues by saying that their relationship can no longer be characterized as teacher and student. He thinks to himself that Zhang Fan really doesn't understand why he is so shocked. Zhang Fan closes his eyes and tells Ding Ru that he would have completely forgotten about it if he hadn't reminded him about it. He shouts, calling Xinyan and saying that this person is no longer useful. She can use him as fertilizer for plants. Ding Zhu is shocked to think that your mother really agreeing to be a teacher for a while. He became one for life. Zhang Fan puts his hand on his shoulder and says, kidding, kidding. Ding Zhu smiles. Feng Xinyan tells Master Ding that their master is the most attentive and kind person. She continues by saying that Ding Ru has two choices. The first is to be used as fertilizer, and the second is to enter under the wing of their master, becoming his lackey. Zhang Fan corrects her, saying that she probably meant to become a servant. Feng Xinyan tells Zhang Fan that she thinks the footman sounds more overbearing. He says okay, let it be as she wants. Zhang Fan looks at her with a smile and thinks that beautiful women are beautiful, but at the same time dangerous. Feng Xinyan hugs Zhang Fan by the hand and asks Master Ding about what he chooses. He lowers his head and replies that even if he becomes a lackey, he won't be of any use. What's the use of him, except that they'll just waste their food on him? Feng Xinyan says Ding Zhu that he cannot worry about it. The dogs of the Zheng family are different from the dogs of other families. For example, if someone's dog breaks a paw, it will most likely be allowed to soup. Feng Xinyan uses magic, and purple threads appear around her. She continues by saying that the Zheng family will always help their dog get his paw back. In shock, Ding Zhu asks her that he will really be able to heal. Feng Xinyan replies that she would not have been able to do this before, but now she is really capable of such a thing. Ding Ru falls to his knees, causing his wheelchair to fall to the floor. He bows to Zhang Fan and Feng Xinyan, saying that it's fine. He agrees. He begins to repeat the word master. Zhang Fan tells Ding Ru that after the treatment, he can safely get to work. Zhang Fan tells Xinyan that she can start. She bows her head, saying that it will be fulfilled. A little later, Zhang Fan is sitting and drinking tea when Feng Xinyan comes to him. She approaches him and tells the gentleman that she wants to inform him that Ding Hao will need a few days to fully recover. She also thinks that he will be able to return to the 9th level of a martial artist. Zhang Fan says that I remember Feng Xinyan saying that she was not able to cure him. Feng Xinyan confusedly replies that she has been practicing a lot lately, and it looks like she has managed to regain her basic skills. Feng Xinyan thinks to herself that Blind Man Bei is not here now, and she does not know whether she should tell the master about her recovery. Feng Xinyan rushes to Zhang Fan and tells him that she wants to continue her training tonight so that her hands will regain their full strength. She must work hard for the benefit of her master, so she asks him not to refuse her this request. Zhang Fan already answers her of course, of course. Then Zhang Fan is called by a servant, who tells the master that someone from Yemen has come to the lobby and asks for him. Zhang Fan replies that it's fine, he'll be right there. The man sits down on a chair telling Zhang Fan that he has a beautiful house. He is sure that Zhang Fan spent a lot of money on him. Zhang Fan answers no. They say that this house is haunted, so it was pretty cheap. The man says that the day after tomorrow they are going to send the Marquis a batch of birthday gifts. His master wants Zhang Fan to accompany this process. Zhang Fan asks him about birthday gifts. The man replies that Officer Zhang really forgot that in a few years the 50th birthday of Lady Marquis Zhen Bei will take place. Zhang Fan says that he will not forget the kindness that the lady showed to his family. He thinks to himself that he simply did not know about this fact. But fortunately he reacted quickly enough. Zhang Fan says with a smile that a man could have asked anyone for this service, why was it necessary to go to him? Zhang Fan thinks to himself that there is nothing difficult about accompanying birthday gifts. But does Zhu Wenzhou really have any other request? The man says that there is actually something else. Tomorrow, his master is going to leave the city of Quito and go to patrol the border. In fact, he plans to mingle with the escort and get to the residence of the Marquis of Zhengbei. The man whispers in Zhang Fan's ear that his master believes that thanks to his connections, he will be able to secretly meet with the lady and the princess. Later that night, Zhang Fan sits while Feng Xinyan massages his temples. Zhang Fan tells her birthday gifts. Another problem is if someone finds out about their mission. Zhu Wenzhou will be furious and they will only have to save their lives. Feng Xinyan asks the master why they don't just steal the gifts, or as an option for him with murder. They can also create a diversion when the time comes. Zhang Fan replies that since he wants to hide his identity and merge with his surroundings, this will be their best chance. They are recruiting and it will be effective. It's too early to give up. Jiang Fan tells Feng Xinyan that on the day of departure, she will disguise someone to accompany him and then put on a show on the road. Tomorrow he will ask the officers who will be escorted with them to come out and give them a good thrashing. Feng Xinyan with a smile says good master. She sits closer to Jiang Fan and asks him if he could help her with sewing. She lacks practice. It is difficult for her to handle the needle. Later, a variety of dishes are on the table. Someone wishes Captain Jiang well. Jiang Fan raises his cup and says that he is only the marquis lackey. He is not worthy to be part of the accompaniment of birthday gifts. If his mistress finds out about this, she will pull him by the ears and say that he behaved extremely stupidly. The soldiers are amazed at his words, coming to the conclusion that Captain Jiang and the princess are very close to each other. Jiang Fan continues, saying that he is a straightforward person, but he will always remember the words of the marquis. Lead the troops, drink wine with them, sort things out and enjoy your achievements. Jiang Fan continues by saying that he thinks that each of them knows what is going to happen tomorrow, and since things have taken exactly this turn, when the time comes, he will hope for their full support. Behind him is Ding Zhu undercover. Jiang Fan tells the soldiers that as long as they treat him with sincerity, he will certainly recommend them to his mistress. In the future, they will become rich together. The soldiers tell the captain in chorus that they are at his service. Jiang Fan takes a sip from the cup and says thank you to them. He thinks to himself that these officials come from small families and nevertheless they are quite wise. But unfortunately it is not easy to get a rank. He can't show it to them. There's a scream outside the door. Jiang Fan thinks about what the hell is going on. Who dares to spoil such a moment for him? Here the door opens from a kick. It's Jiang Fan bursting into the room. Wars are running behind him. A woman is lying on the floor in front of them in a room, and a man is hanging over her. This is the chief official of the city of Kyudo. He presses his hands to the girl, not letting her get up. She bursts into tears. Ding Ru says Zaiatsui in amazement. Jiang Fan turns his head to him and asks him if he knows this woman. The man points his finger at them and shouts at them who else they are. At least they know who he is. The girl covers her eyes with her hands, bursting into tears. Ding Zhu replies that this is his brother Wang Lai's wife. Jiang Fan thinks that damn, is this really the same woman that blind man Bei helped? Jiang Fan says out loud that the man tried to rape her. Isn't Ding Ru angry at him? He replies that he is angry. Jiang Fan asks him why he doesn't do anything then. Ding Zhu angrily replies that the man is the chief official of the city of Kyudo. Jiang Fan asks him who he is now. He thinks to himself that who knows if blind Bei was telling the truth that they didn't do anything to her. If Bei was lying, it means that she is half his woman. Ding Zhu replies that he is now a servant. Jiang Fan tells him no, he's his dog, and his dogs don't let insults get away with it. If he wants to bite someone, then it's just worth taking and doing. Jiang Fan will be responsible for their deaths. Ding Zhu says yes. He steps forward. The man points his finger at him and shouts about why they don't leave. They really don't know who he is. Ding Zhu grabs his finger and breaks it. The man takes hold of the injured arm and screams in pain. Ding Ru immediately kicks him in the face. Jiang Fan leans over to the girl and asks her what happened. Then, in a trembling voice, she replies that the man said that the authorities were going to try her late husband and she should see him here. Jiang Fan notices that the girl's bra is visible. She wipes her tears with her hands and says that if she hadn't come, her whole family would be involved in this case. Jiang Fan thinks that there is hardly a single woman in this world who knows about such things. Jiang Fan shouts to Ding Ru to bring the man here. He answers yes. He brings a man by the scruff of the neck to Jiang Fan, and he thinks that if he does not deal with this matter radically, decisively and bloodily, then he may have problems with the blind man Bei. The feeling of arguing with blind Bei is just terrible. Jiang Fan orders to gather people, they will need them. Jiang Fan thinks to himself that this is why the man must die. The officer in the back asks Captain Jiang about what they needed the soldiers for. Jiang Fan replies with a smile that he is going to destroy the man's entire family. Jiang Fan on horseback leads a lot of soldiers. Next to him is a disguised Ding Zhu. Jiang Fan says that the Chen family used to be in charge here, but he never thought that this day would come. Damn, when he thinks about the future in which he died in battle, he thinks about orphans and widows, whom they will mock. He wants to destroy their entire family. He continues by saying that if they want their families to be safe in the future, this time they just can't let them go. A bloody corpse lies under the hooves of Jiang Fan's horse. Jiang Fan recalls the words of the blind man Bei that in order to determine his position in society, he must maintain a high status. Jiang Fan comes to the conclusion that as long as he maintains a high status, no one will dare to joke with him or dig under him. Jiang Fan tightly grips the reins of the horse and thinks that if he gives up, problems will continue to appear. Jiang Fan closes his eyes and thinks about what the hell, Why in all dramas enemies die with one blow? And he's not even able to destroy the door. The soldiers behind him are standing and talking among themselves. They are all standing in front of the entrance to the house, and the soldiers are discussing why his lordship doesn't give them orders. They have to hurry. The more they wait, the more exhausted people will be inside. They cannot give them such pleasure, they are unworthy of it. Zhang Fan raises his hand, continuing his reflections on the fact that he is obliged to protect himself and the family property for which he and Blind Bei have worked so hard. Zhang Fan speaks on his command. Someone shouts Officer Zhang to stop. Zhu Wenzu is approaching them with soldiers. He shouts to Zhang Fan that he is going with him. He will personally find out from him what exactly prompted him to such actions. He knows that mobilizing troops or gathering a crowd for an uprising is a serious crime. Zhang Fan walks through the courtyard accompanied by guards. Two soldiers tell Officer Zhang that they have to ask him to hand over his weapons. Zhang Fan stands and magic begins to sparkle around him. The soldiers are shocked and think that Zhang Fan has the 9th level at such a young age. Only the Marquis of the Zhenbei family has the same power. The soldiers behind him are shouting level 9 martial artist. Officer Zhang has fierce strength. Officer Zhang is great. Zhang Fan goes into the house. He thinks that Zhu Wenzu is furious about today's commotion. The doors are closing behind Zhang Fan, and he thinks that in the end, no matter what status he has, Zhu Wenzu cannot allow something like this to happen in the city of Hudo. Zhu Wenzu puts his hand on Zhang Fan's shoulder. Zhu Wenzu tells Zhang Fan good job. He does not understand what kind of reaction it is. Zhu Wenzu says that now that the situation has become complicated, and the Marquis has settled in the capital, they should always be ready. If they use the Chen family to unite their soldiers by hating a single enemy, they can boost their morale. Thus, they will be able to get a double result for half the effort. He ends his speech by saying that Officer Zhang is a good son. Zhu Wenzu tells Zhang Fan that he can continue what he is doing with confidence. By the way, he had heard that Zhang Fan would be in charge of escorting birthday gifts. He asks him to let the old county magistrate do the finishing touches. Zhu Wenzu waves to him, saying that tomorrow he will join him when he leaves the city. Zhu Wenzu says that it just seems to him that if the soldiers decide to commit some heinous act, real chaos will begin there, so he decided to go with them. In addition, he wants to make sure whether the city of Kudo is still the patrimony of the Great Yan or not. Zhang Fan thinks that Zhu Wenzu has a very rich imagination. He would make a great artist for Manhwa. The man tells Officer Zhang that his master is very bad at navigating the terrain, so he hopes that Zhang Fan will take care of him. He responds in shock, of course. The man turns to the soldiers and gives them the order to kill. Zhang Fan thinks that this is very ruthless. The soldiers readily accept the order. At night, the house is destroyed. There are pieces lying everywhere. Zhang Fan sits on the ruins and asks Ding Ru if he wants to know what he is doing here in the middle of the night. He tries to guess that it's all about the sediment after the incident. Zhang Fan replies that to be honest, he doesn't know himself, he just wanted to come here. Zhang Fan lights a cigarette. Ding Ru tells Zhang Fan, addressing him as a master, that he can share his true feelings with him. Zhang Fan replies that if he wants him to reveal his true feelings to him, he can call him younger brother. Ding Ru doesn't know how to react to this. He repeats the words younger brother in a trembling voice. Ding Zhu says that to be honest, Zhang Fan at first seemed to him an extremely cold-blooded person. But sometimes it seems to him that Zhang Fan is quite humane, and sometimes it is very difficult for him to understand him. Zhang Fan replies that Ding Zhu speaks too pretentiously. He looks like those scientists. Zhang Fan exhales smoke, saying that his life is too comfortable in this life, so he can also call himself pretentious. He has never faced hunger, never suffered. When he woke up, everything was ready for him. But in the future, he just can't afford to be pretentious. They say that during the day the horrors of war manifest themselves in revenge, but these soldiers still manage to amass some riches and enjoy this life. His former world was also a warm and fluffy place where cannibalism also flourished, but this world is a million times bloodier than Zhang Fan imagined. He says out loud that he can no longer afford to be a burden. Then Feng Xinyan comes up to him from behind and asks him if he doesn't mind if she keeps him company. Zhang Fan answers her not worth it. She can go back and pack her things. Tomorrow they will leave this place. She speaks as you command. Zhang Fan says he's a little tired today, so he's going to lie down. Feng Xinyan says it's still quite early. They could play cards or dice when they get home. She would have made a great stickman. The next evening, a day after the start of the gift escort, someone in the tent camp suggests to the others, addressing them as brothers, to set up a camp here and continue the journey tomorrow. There are several tents around the campfire. In the center there is a large tent and a huge cart. In response to the speaker, the words are heard. Jiang Fan stands in front of a huge cart and asks about it being a gift from the Zhu family fortress to the marquis wife. Ding Zhu answers him, yes, it is a rare beast, a red wolf. Jiang Fan answers, understood, can go. Ding Zhu speaks as you command. Jiang Fan enters the tent. Zhu Wenzhou is sitting there eating chicken, and a huge wolf is lying in a cage behind him. Red magic swirls around the wolf. Jiang Fan smiles as he walks into the tent. Zhu Wenzhou, chewing a chicken, asks him how he knew he was here. Jiang Fan says, my lord, with such a physique, where else would he be? He sits down in a chair, saying thank you to him for hiding here. Zhu Wenzhou says that he has been a beast for most of his life, so it is natural for him to be only around them. Then a man comes into their tent. Jiang Fan looks at how a man greets Zhu Wenzhou and accepts a chicken leg from his hands. And he thinks that he really brought a guard with him, and this is a problem. Jiang Fan, watching the man leave the tent, asks Zhu Wenzhou about whether to cook him more food. He hits his stomach with a smile and replies that no, there is enough food and he is already full. Jiang Fan points his hand behind his back and asks about that person. He doesn't think the man has eaten half a fried chicken. Zhu Wenzhou asks Jiang Fan if the man is not one of his soldiers. Then they both open their mouths in shock, realizing that a completely stranger came to them. Jiang Fan puts his hand to his face and asks himself the question of what he is trying to do, struggling with air for half a day. After a while, Jiang Fan comes out of the tent, thinking that after 2 hours of searching, he could not find that man, and he can't fight Zhu Wenzhou until he recognizes the opponent. Here Jiang Fan opens his eyes in amazement, greatly surprised by something. He sees the same man who is sitting by the fire and eating food. More food is being cooked on the fire in front of him in a cauldron. Jiang Fan mentally calls Xinyan. She immediately appears next to the man, ready for battle and using disguise. The man continues to eat, not paying attention to her. Xinyan is preparing to use magic under disguise, but something hinders her. She looks at Jiang Fan and mentally calls her. He understands that fortunately Feng Xinyan is fine, but she wants to say that the man in front of them is so strong that she will not be able to escape. Jiang Fan sits down by the fire and asks the man about how he can eat a Chinese samovar without sauce. It's wrong. He asks Sunny to bring a plate with sauce. Jiang Fan thinks about how it pisses him off when the protagonist has to cajole the boss. In the worst case scenario, next year Blind Bei will light incense and clean the grass from his grave. Jiang Fan gives the man a bowl and says that the food should be taken and dipped in sauce. He smiles back. Jiang Fan tells Xinyan to serve his sauce. Feng Xinyan answers well. The food is cooked on the fire. The flame crackles under the bowl. Jiang Fan tells the man that they are on their way now and there is nothing to do. When the job is done, he can follow him. Jiang Fan continues, saying that he promises that the man will get good food and drink all year round, different every day. The man at the same time bites off a piece of chicken. He swallows the food. The man asks Jiang Fan that he can promise him anything. Jiang Fan replies that if he has it, he can promise it. The man raises his finger and points it at Feng Xinyan. He says that in that case he wants her. She's good. Jiang Fan closes his eyes and tells the man that then he should pull out his sword. He thinks to himself that, as expected, Feng Xinyan could not hide her true appearance from a man. But Feng Xinyan is not for sale. Jiang Fan continues his reflections that he has already died once and his main goal in this world is to do things. He has to sacrifice his woman to make this world a better place. Why would he do that? The man's request angers Feng Xinyan and blue threads break from her fingers. The man points at Feng Xinyan with his finger and says that she is very good. Then he puts his finger on Jiang Fan and says that he is also good. Jiang Fan is shocked to realize that the man does not mean him. He feels Mo Wang's presence. Mo Wang's stone in his pocket lights up with blue fire in Jiang Fan's pocket.